Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039S-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-Kicks-Cancer039S-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. The first fan of this podcast and what we do here. And has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
Commissioner, I would like to introduce the new Robin to you.
How's it going, you old dirtbag?
Well, hello there, young man. It's a pleasure to meet you. Put her there.
Piece of shit looking ass, glasses ass having motherfucker. How's it going?
My word. What colorful personality he has, Batman.
Now, Damian, remember, respect. We are here to learn about the new potential case.
Respect these balls, motherfucker.
Your other companions have always been so forthcoming with their decorum.
We know you have a spark plug going up your old rectum there, buddy.
My apologies, Commissioner. He's been spending a lot of time on something called Xbox Live.
Fucking love Call of Duty, man. Kill everybody. Racial epithets are my thing.
Damian, your mother is part Middle Eastern.
Looks like you're enjoying your stint as the new Robin then, eh? How's that going?
Wait, I thought we were about to bust some fucking heads in the streets of Gotham, or what happened to that plan? Why are we even on this fucking rooftop if that's not the next step? I always have to live through this fucking bullshit, go talk to old-ass motherfucker, and we can just check TikTok or Twitter or some bullshit, follow the hashtags, and go straight to the crime. But no, we gotta talk to fucking what's-his-nuts every goddamn time before we go on a fucking goddamn, patrol. I don't get it!
Anyway, pleasure to meet you, young man.
Damian, if you keep talking that way, I will take your Xbox.
No!
Well, you know me, Batman. I'm always one to spare the rod and spoil the child, but in this case, I'm gonna have to insist that
I kind of respect him now.
Welcome to Superhero Stuff You Should Know, a Superhouse podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Ben Wan, and my other co-host is...
There are whores in this residence. Whores in this residence. Wet ass pussy. It's Andrew.
You know, this is the Superman deep dive, right?
I do know that. You think because Superman's wholesome, we're wholesome?
Absolutely not. So, usually I am the man who knows too much about Batman, but today, shocker of all shockers, I'm talking about Superman over here. So, we've covered the Fleischer Superman cartoon, thanks to Andrew, and it established that I am not a huge fan of that cartoon. It seems like I got off the wrong foot with Superman fans on this show.
You felt bad from that episode. I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I didn't want to make you feel that bad. You didn't have to do it, but I'm glad you did it. So I brought up, I greatly prefer the predecessor, which is the radio series, which is where those voice actors come from. And Andrew, at one point in the podcast, asked me why you don't really like the Fleischer series, but you do like the radio show, and why is that? So I thought this episode, for the audience,
episode, and for that audience, this is my response to that. Why I think the radio show is a vastly, more enjoyable, superior adaptation of Superman and his mythos, despite being lesser known. So how much do you know about the Superman radio series?
Oh, I've only listened to clips. I mean, I know it's Bud Collyer and all the crew, most of the same voice cast from Fleischer, because I did the Fleischer study. But that's it, man. Not a whole lot. I don't think I've listened to a full episode, to be honest with you. I've never listened to a whole lot of the old-timey radio stuff.
Right, yeah. And it's not like every episode is a winner either, so I can't really blame you.
They were like 1,600 episodes or something? Is that correct?
It was on for 11 years, 1940 to 1951. So it was on for a long-ass time. Not every episode has been found, so there's some that are lost.
What is the average episode length?
About 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That's doable, right? Like that's just a drive down the street.
That's true. I should. Yeah. Are they on? I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but they're on YouTube. They're
YouTube. I listen to a majority of this on YouTube as well as Spotify.
Okay. Oh, they're on Spotify as well.
Indeed. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And look who's here.
Right there.
Jesus Christ.
He had technical difficulties.
Oh my God.
I'm going to keep this intro in. You're coming in late to the game. This is how we're introing you. Technical difficulties for Santa Cruz.
You're supposed to be faster than a speeding bullet. So, Wolfie, welcome.
I'm here.
He is here.
Do I sound okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
You do, actually. You do, yes.
Yeah. So, I was going to ask you, Wolfie, what have you heard or what do you know about the Superman radio series?
Like really nothing, honestly.
Good, perfect. You guys are the perfect audiences for this because I'm about to blow your minds.
All right, I'm excited.
Of the original, this may be the very first adaptation of any DC property, I believe.
Whoa.
I already forgot Bud Collyer's real name. It was like
Hearmans.
Yes. Yes. I changed my name
Clayton
too.
Hearmans.
Hearmans.
I kind of grew up with it. To me, this is when I think old school Golden Age Superman. This is what I think of. So I was introduced to it through like a CD set that I think was produced by the Smithsonian, and they had like the first 6 months worth of episode stories on that, as well as like a booklet.
That's cool.
Talking about the historical.
Did you ask for this, or were your parents like, you like Batman, right? So just here's a similar thing.
I asked them to buy it for me when I was at the store. I remember seeing it because
Like a CD?
I had already grown up with. Yeah, like it was a CD set.
Cool.
I wish I had it with me on here, but it was a CD set. I had already been listening to the Shadow radio series growing up, so I was just like, I like the Shadow. I didn't know there was a Superman radio show, so maybe it's going to be the same thing. And I listened to it, and I didn't like it nearly as much as the Shadow. But now that I've an adult and I've gone back and seen, as well as listened to the later seasons of what that show would become, I've come to greatly appreciate this. And not just in terms of its historical significance, but the actual storytelling. So there's a lot more to this series to appreciate than just, hey, like, this is the first time that they use this actor, or this is the first time that they introduced this concept. So
you were listening to it as a kid, and you're like, kind of lame. And that was...
no, I mean...
I had to revisit it.
I did like it, but I didn't like the original episodes. Just like any TV show or any series, they're just trying to get their foot off the ground. They're just trying to figure out how it is.
Yeah.
But I still appreciated it, but I didn't like it nearly as much as The Shadow because The Shadow was just way more interesting to me than that. And they also hadn't quite figured out what to do with it. The show developed over the 11 years. So that's
they were
that's a big reason
inventing
why.
powers and kryptonite and
Exactly. Yes.
and saving people from the Klan.
Yes, we are definitely going into that towards the end.
Yeah.
But the show first premiered in February of 1940, so 2 years after his appearance in Action Comics #1 in 1938.
It's the thing, like, Superman was an immediate hit. Like,
Yes.
They could not get, like, any of the, what do you call it, pulp magazines to publish it at first, but as soon as they did, hit the fucking ground running, it feels like. Like, Superman, for lack of a better word, took off. That's what came to me. But yes, it took off really quickly, it seems like.
Yes,
Is this
it
the
did.
Conan show or what?
No, it's Fallon.
Writers?
Even better, it's
Joke
Fallon.
writers?
Yes. Add in more unnecessary laughing to whatever your guest says. So the original sponsor was Hackers H.O. Oates. And the originators, though, were a press agent for DC Comics, who was Alan Duchovny, and a former Pulp Fiction author named Robert Joff Maxwell. Maxwell is not just one of the creators, but one of the producers who went on to... He's the main mastermind behind this, as well as went on to help produce the George Reeves TV show in the 50s.
Oh, nice. He was there for a long time. That's cool.
So this guy, if you were to compare him, he's like another significance. He's like a Jerry Robinson, a Denny O'Neil, if we were to use the Batman mythos as a comparison. Like, he added just as much as the original true creators, Siegel and Schuster, on here. They first started working on it in 1939, and it was Duchovny and Maxwell who came up with the famous opening. And I actually have, thanks to a site called SupermanHomepage.com, they had the original written opening. That's a little different from what we know from the Fleischer cartoon.
Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets. Up in the sky, look! It's a giant bird. It's a plane. It's Superman! And now, Superman, a being no larger than an ordinary man, but possessed of powers and abilities never before realized on Earth. Able to leap into the air an eighth of a mile at a single bound, hurdle a 20-story building with ease, race a high-powered bullet to its target, lift tremendous weights and rend solid steel in his bare hands as though it were paper. Superman, a strange visitor from a distant planet, champion of the oppressed, physical marvel extraordinary, who has sworn to devote his existence on Earth to helping those in need.
I like that. Because I didn't grow up with it, but, like, yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah, well, also notice, like, they cleaned up the language a bit, so it's not faster, faster than the speaking
like,
bullets.
this motherfucker's from space.
Yeah. Like, notice it's able to leap into the air an eighth of a mile at a single bound, hurdle a 20-story building with ease, turn into leap over buildings in a single bound.
A science book?
Yeah.
What is this, a math problem?
So
Science. I was out that day.
Flies from Mexico to New York City.
Duchovny and Maxwell revised this over time, obviously, into the ones that we know, and they later added that Superman fights for truth and justice. And then in 1942, America entered World War II after the Pearl Harbor attack. And that's when they added "And the American Way" into it because of the war. And as they were developing it, one of the big choices that they wanted was, of course, radio actor Bud Collyer, as we talked about in the Fleischer episode. So they went to him and they offered him the role of Clark Kent Superman. And Bud Collyer said...
What was he doing before this? Do you know?
Good question. He was the lead radio actor he played heroic roles. So he played this they called him a globe-trotting adventurer Pat Ryan on NBC's Terry and the Pirates radio serial, as well as the title role on Renfrew of the Mounted. No idea. Don't know those radio shows.
Sounds
Renfrew of the Mounted.
Renfrew of the Mounted is going to save people.
So
sounds like adventure.
But they're like,
abound
hey,
in the woods.
instead of being, Renfrew of the Mounted, you could be Superman. And Bud Collyer immediately said no.
Wow.
Do
any of these actors really want to do it other than, well, I guess Reeves and Cavill did want to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, keep in mind, this is first adaptation of a superhero.
That's true. It's like, this is
outside
silly.
of, if you don't count, obviously, the pulp heroes like the Shadow and everything.
He's like, what am I going to fly into their ears?
Yeah, so he said, quote, "I really fought to unload it. It was a funny thing. I fought with Bob Maxwell, who owned the rights to this thing. The whole idea embarrassed me. So I said no."
Wow.
Thankfully, though, the very first episode doesn't have Superman at all. So the radio series kicked off this tradition that carried over into the Richard Donner movie, the Superman animated series, Man of Steel, where we spend 30 minutes on Krypton. Though in this case it's like 10 minutes because it's a 10-minute episode. But they spent the full first episode of the Superman radio show is called Baby from Krypton. And it's all on Krypton. It's all the Jor-El stuff. Which today we're just like, okay, again, just like whenever we see the Waynes get shot. But again, keep in mind, this is the first time that we ever spent any time on Krypton.
There's always a first.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Bud Collyer did agree to be part of this first episode. He is playing a member of the Kryptonian Council in the first episode. And not Superman, because there's no Superman in it. But he did agree to be part of it.
Okay.
So in the radio version, Krypton is a large planet orbiting on the opposite side of the Earth's sun, as opposed to being in another universe, like it would be adopted in the canon.
So it's just in our solar system at this point.
Yeah. It's just not discovered by man in 1940. It indicates that Kryptonians do have superpowers. So this was a thing in the old days, where instead of the whole, like, the yellow sun gives you superpowers, it was more that they always had superpowers. Like, Laura brings up that, for her to get to wherever she wants, she just has to take one step and she'll wind up at her friend's place. Like, that was how they did it.
Yeah, I wonder what the state of astronomy was in 1930, because we're in such a beginning stages of all that.
The moon was still made of cheese.
Yeah.
Yes, at that time.
Essentially. So
green men on Mars.
The first actors to play Superman's parents, Jor-El was voiced by an actor named Ned Weaver, who would be a recurring actor on this show. And Lara was voiced by Agnes Moorehead, a frequent collaborator of Orson Welles, and was a regular on The Shadow, as we talked about in the Is Batman a Ripoff of The Shadow deep dive that we did a while back. She was Margot Lane, the main confidant of The Shadow in there. So she kind of had a small role as Lara. And also another character established is a man named Rozan of Krypton. I keep wanting to say Roseanne, but it's Rozan, R-O-Z-A-N. It's not Roseanne.
He's tweeted under the influence of Ambien all kinds of racist shit, although it was normal at that time, though. So.
Yes.
No one calls a hubbub like it did this time around.
So Rozan is the head of the Kryptonian Council, who sort of doesn't believe Jor-El that the planet is going to explode. He's the big climate change denier, you could say.
He's a Trumper.
And this character actually did show up in the Superman serials as well as the George Reeves show. So he became a character that was adapted later on. On DC Fandom Part 2 yesterday, they recreated this episode with Eric McCormick as the narrator, Katerina Scorsoni as Rozan, Yolanda Ross as Lara, and Breaking Bad's Giancarlo Esposito as Jor-El, which I thought was great casting.
Cool. That's cool.
Also,
I mean,
Richard
just
Kind.
Just to reconfirm, Giancarlo Esposito is the El Pollo Loco owner, correct?
Los Pollos Hermanos.
Los Pollos Hermanos. Yeah.
Yeah, Gus Fring.
I forgot.
He's also the voice of Lex Luthor on the Harley Quinn show. So, let's see. It also had Richard Kind, Sam Daly, and Constance Zimmer as other members of the Kryptonian Council. So that was
how was their overall delivery and execution, locution?
It's weird because I'm so used to hearing the 1940 style radio that when you bring like a modern take to it, it just doesn't feel the same.
It's missing some vintage.
It feels like
epicness.
Keep in mind, like, I like some better than others in there, I think. I'll get into like who I like the best when we get to those certain episodes. I think Giancarlo did a great job as Jor-El, though. He had that like nice mix of like modern plus 1940s radio type of melodramatic delivery type thing that was perfect for this.
That's cool.
So that was cool. But they had to go into episode 2, and that's when Superman shows up. So Maxwell, the mastermind behind all this, tricked Collyer into returning to the studio to record a second show. I don't know how he tricked him, but I'm guessing it was just like, oh, we need like more dialogue for this. And then when they showed up, that's when he sat down with him and really convinced him, hey, like, take a shot at this, please.
This is going to be kind of a big deal.
Yeah. They originally weren't sure how to cast this. They're like, should we have one guy play Clark Kent and one guy play Superman? again, this is the first time anyone's had to cast.
Yeah, I love that.
A superhero.
I love that. Like, yeah, they're just figuring it out. We take it for granted now.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Collier said, quote, they didn't know whether they wanted one man for both of the parts, Clark Kent and Superman, or if they wanted two. They didn't know how he should be played or anything. So it's because of the fact that Collier could switch voices from, hi, I'm Clark Kent. Hi, Mr. White. How you doing? To, this looks like a job for Superman.
Yeah.
Up, and away. So here's another thing. He received no billing for the role. Nobody said, introducing Bud Collyer as Superman. He's never credited in the actual episodes, at least in the very beginning.
Because he's embarrassed by it?
No, they wanted to, apparently, the licensing arm of DC Comics, Superman Incorporated, wanted the true identity of the radio Superman to be kept secret so that kids would think that he was real. That this is the real Superman.
Thus leading into George Reeves damn near getting shot by a kid. And then having to talk a kid down. That shit's real, though, apparently. Do you know how he talked the kid down? You know the story?
I saw Hollywoodland's version, but I don't think they really showed how he talked it down. It kind of just left off on a cliffhanger.
The guy had a moment of fucking genius. George Reeves, the actor. All right, so just to set it up real quick. This kid fan shows up with a gun and wants to shoot George Reeves to see if he's Superman or not. George Reeves, on the spot, says to the kid,
I remember this, yeah.
If you shoot me, it will bounce off of me, but when it bounces off, you could hurt somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So he's smart enough to not shatter this kid's, imagination in his world, because he knows that'll just make the kid pull the trigger. So I just thought it was genius. I thought that it was a stroke of genius right there.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is to get guns in America.
Some 4-year-old walks up with an AK.
at a 5 and dime. A nickel, what do they call 5 and
He
dime?
got it at the gun show loophole, so it's okay.
It's only a 22. It wasn't going to kill him. It was just going to maim him.
Going to hurt him a little bit. By Superman.
Yes.
Tickle, yeah.
Well, the Superman didn't have to worry about that because Bud Collyer was not known. And again, this is voice acting. So just like most people don't really know what Kevin Conroy looks like, they might recognize the voice, but they don't know what he looks like. Same thing with Bud Collyer. Bud Collyer was a thin man with a mustache. He was like a Clark Gable-looking dude. He didn't look like Superman.
Right. He was a classically handsome type.
Yeah. Yeah, he still was. He still was. But it wasn't like he walked around. It's not like he looked like this.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, Kevin Conroy's also like so lanky.
Oh, yeah,
for Batman,
he is.
You know.
Yeah.
The perfect voice, of course, but it's just
Of course, yes.
see, what's your experience with
knight.
heroics?
What is your experience with heroics? So during the 1960s, Collier would end up continuing the Superman role. So it started out as something that he didn't want to do, but it became a role that he loved doing and continued through into the 60s. So this is something that he did for like 3 decades. And he was Superman on record albums, on the New Adventures of Superman from 66 to 67, the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure from 67 to 68, and the Batman Superman Hour of Adventure from 68 to 69. So basically just right through the same time that Adam West was showing up as Batman on live action TV. So yeah,
that's crazy. I did not know it went that long. There was an Aquaman TV show too, right? That was just Aquaman.
I think so. Yeah, it was on DC Universe.
There was a time where Aquaman was like sort of popular for some reason. I mean,
before he was Jason Momoa.
He's had a resurgence lately, but there was like 40 years or more where he was made fun of a lot. So
yes,
yeah.
Let's see. So episode 2 is called Clark Kent Reporter, and this is where we get the first major change from canon, partially so that they can speed shit up for the story, which is that when the spaceship arrives in not even in Smallville, but on Earth, it's been so fucking long that Superman is a grown-ass man when he steps out of the spaceship.
That's kind of
cool. There's no Jonathan and Martha Kent. He steps out of the Superman suit already. He's literally grew up on this fucking ship.
I'm in.
Finally.
Let's just get right to it.
Let's see that movie.
No origin.
I like that one.
Take forever.
So it says he's hovering with curious power over a highway in Indiana, and he, quote, wheels and turns in curious flight, unseen below. So this episode is the first instance of Superman flying in general. So we talked about this in the Fleischer deep dive, how like there's a common urban legend that it was the Fleischer series that was the first time that
I totally
Superman
thought
flew.
it was, yeah.
Which it makes sense because it is technically the first time you saw him fly. So like you're not necessarily wrong, but it wasn't the first to come up with the idea of it. It was determined that in the radio series, it's just awkward to be like up and down and up and down instead of the leaping thing. So you would just have him fly.
So wait, comics come out, radio show comes out, and then radio makes him fly pretty much immediately. But the comics don't immediately copy what the radio show's doing because they're like, we're
Not
the
yet.
OGs.
Yeah.
Still just jumping?
Yeah. So he's still just jumping in the
just
comics.
leaping around.
And then eventually the Fleischer series takes off, of course, and I think with the popularity of that, then it transferred over. But yeah, the director Jack Johnstone had a bunch of sound artists create the audio effects, and so the effect of the flying for many years was reportedly combining the recording of an artillery shell streaking through the air with a separate recording of a wind tunnel played backward.
Cool.
So you played it both at the same time to make it
Wicked.
sound like he's flying and you're hearing him fly. As well as they slowed down the recording, Superman going down, and they stopped it completely once he drops to the ground. So that's how you knew that he took off, went down, and then stopped. Also helps because in the dialogue of the radio, he's like, up, up, and then he's like, down, down, to indicate that. But his first heroic act is that he sees this father and the son, and it's a professor and his son, Jimmy, not Jimmy Olsen, because he's not been created yet. They end up in like this runaway trolley, and the kid says, look, there in the sky, it's a man, he's flying. Again, somebody commenting that Superman's flying, something that he had never done before in the comics.
It's a bird. Wait, why are you so excited
Yeah,
about a
like
bird?
they don't even say that part.
That part's weird.
Superman
Runaway
saves both of them,
trolley,
and he says like, hey, like, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all my friends. Oh wait, no, that's a different movie. He says, he says, I want to see and observe the best and worst of humanity. And the professor says, well, why don't you become a journalist to observe humanity and blend with society? And they're like, well, I can't go in these clothes. These are the clothes of Superman. I have to be something else. And Jimmy gives him the name of Clark Kent, something, very ordinary, something very bland for him to blend in. And then he says the biggest favor they can do is not tell anyone who he is. So this is another big difference between Superman and the one in the comics, at least in the beginning. Superman never wants to be seen. He never wants to be known. He doesn't want anybody to think.
All right. I have like nerd conspiracy theory thing going on here, and I've heard this from somewhere else, but the fact that we're ramping up to World War II at this time, most of the creators are Jewish. The fact that they want to have a secret alias is reflective of maybe secret Jews in America. And so this was part of their world, was a secret identity.
Potentially, the names Siegel and Schuster were anglicized from their original names. Those are not their original names.
Who are they?
I will hold on real quick. I will find
By
them.
the way, for everybody out there, I cannot confirm that. I've just heard that, but it seems like maybe there was something in the water there. Maybe.
You're not supposed to say Jews on TV.
Depends on how you say it.
No, I'm trying to find it. The Seagulls were originally the Segal. I'm butchering this so much. Segalovics, and Schuster was Schusterovics. I really butchered the fuck out of them. That's
Maybe if it
Really?
but those are the original
is it
names.
VICS
For which one?
at the end for one of them.
Segalovic is VICHS at the end, and then Schusterovics is ROWICHS at the end. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I turned into Siegel and Schuster, because I still can't pronounce that.
So I think they were like it was first generation American. One of them at least was Lithuanian, and they were leaving. Again, I'm not 100% on this, but they left because of rising tensions, as it were. So,
Yeah, I could see that.
but they were born in America, but their parents were not.
So that's not the first instance of like secret identities with these type of characters, right?
Shadow came first. The Scarlet Pimpernel, I think, is probably
Phantom.
the
Yeah, that's true.
originator of that from Paradise Orcsy. But yeah, so they agree not to tell anybody about Superman, and Superman's like, my first friends on Earth. Keep in mind, these characters never show up again in the entire series.
He kills them.
In the recreation yesterday, a young actor named Sean Giambrone, I might be butchering that, was Jimmy, and he sounded exactly like the kid in the radio show. And the Fonz himself, Henry Winkler, was the professor who suggests that Superman become a reporter. And that's Superman was played by Tim Daly, reprising his role from Superman the Animated Series. So that was cool on Fandom. Cool. But yeah, so Clark goes to apply for a newspaper job, and he goes to the Daily Planet. So a quick thing on the Daily Planet is that originally in the comics it was called the Daily Star, and his boss was named George Taylor. Schuster named the Daily Star off the Toronto Daily Star newspaper from where he grew up. And is the newspaper that he received.
I've heard that. I've heard Metropolis is based on Toronto a bit.
Probably,
too, not New York.
I wouldn't be surprised. However,
yes.
when they had to start publishing the newspaper comic strip, because they were comic strips as well for Superman, the newspaper that published it wasn't the Daily Star, and they're like, we don't want to cite another newspaper's name in our own newspaper. Yeah, so it became one that didn't exist. It became the Daily Planet. So the Daily Planet was already created in the comics at that point. However...
Okay, so Daily Planet... Okay, so that wasn't a product of the radio show.
No, but Perry White is. So the original editor was just a dude named George Taylor. They had come up with a guy named Paris White, who became Perry for short. Maxwell
I was just going to say that, jokingly, for some reason.
And he was voiced by an actor named Julian Noah, who... also voices Perry in the Fleischer cartoons, but he sort of set the stage of Perry being this loud and stubborn, and he's like, "What are you doing in my office, Kent? I swear to God, if you don't have a story soon, I will fire you." That type of shit. So,
get me pictures of Spider-Man.
Oh wait, I inspired that guy.
Yeah, it's very similar characters, but yeah, Julian Noah also ends up voicing a lot of other characters in the episodes. Whenever Clark has to interview a cop or a commissioner, Julian Noah, Julian Noah ends up voicing them, and it's hilarious because he still sounds like Perry White. So it's always like, "Hello, Commissioner." He's like, "Hello, Kent," and you're just like, "Oh, that's Perry White. That's the same actor again." But yeah, Clark goes in to apply for a reporter job from Perry White, who is just like, "I'm not hiring right now." But Clark had used his super hearing to hear a call that Perry was on, that somebody has been sabotaging the railroad, who calls himself the Wolf, and that is the first villain in this serial. So that's Clark promises he can investigate it, and Perry's like, "You know what? If you can actually get me the story, then I'll hire you. But you have to get the story first." Which means you got to fly all the way over to where this train is, and Clark's like, "I don't think that's going to be a problem." Wink. So
he buys a first-class plane ticket.
His secretary.
I just want to fly.
His secretary, Miss Smith, is going to prep him for, I guess, anything he needs to know to fill out paperwork. But Clark, she leaves him in this one room, and she's like, "Be careful for that window. We're 20 stories up." And Clark's like, after she leaves him alone, he's like, "Well, I got to go stop the wolf." So he just jumps out the window as Superman. But since Miss Smith doesn't know that he's Superman, she goes back into the room and thinks that Clark committed suicide, and she's like traumatized by the fact that he might have jumped out the window, and there is no follow-up whatsoever of ever correcting her on that. This woman leaves the Daily Planet traumatized.
They just haul her off to a padded room.
Old-timey storytelling isn't so great at what's known as follow-up.
So this episode was...
All men can fly. All men jump out of windows, and all men can fly.
Yes.
All men can fly. She's like in the corner of the asylum.
That was the end of episode 2, and that was recorded yesterday with Terry Crews as the narrator. As I said, Henry Winkler was the professor.
What the heck?
Yeah. Constance Zimmer was the traumatized Miss Smith. Tony Shalhoub from Monk was the voice of the Wolf, and he was fantastic. As he has that right mix of oozing menace and calm sincerity when he voiced the Wolf on it that the original guy had. So I'm like, that guy, that was perfect. And then in a gender-bending, race-bending move, it was Alfred Woodard as Perry White. Which
nice. That's a good cast.
Worked out pretty well. She was kind of hilarious. So what they're setting up is the first time Superman goes up against a villain, who's a guy named the Wolf. He's not really a supervillain. There's no identification of him wearing a costume or a mask. There's a weird mention at one point where he says, if he finds the missing engine, I'll eat it. And then his mentions was like, what? And he's like, never mind. And you're like, does he mean like the whole expression, like, I'll eat my hat? Or does he actually mean he's literally going to eat this thing? It's never stated. But
there's that Russian guy who ate a fighter jet.
did he survive?
Is that real?
I don't know. It was on like Stanley's Superhumans or something.
Oh, yeah, I saw some of those episodes, yeah.
So Superman ends up stopping the landslide. They're planning on basically destroying this train using a landslide after blowing up part of it and part of the mountain so that the avalanche, crushes the train. So Superman does...
Is that where the term comes
the
from?
what part?
Win by a landslide?
Potentially.
Yes, from Superman's radio show.
Superman radio show.
That's how you won elections. You actually created a landslide to
Well,
take your...
the name of episode 3 is called Kino's Landslide. So, you were onto something, Wolfie.
What? Who's Kino?
Kino is the henchman for the Wolf, who is assigned to blow up part of the mountain so that it comes and collapses the train.
Is this a Ninja Turtles crossover with this motherfucker or what?
Kino, yes. Keno.
That is his name in the
Forget-
second one, right?
Ernie Reyes Jr. to come do the voice on the radio show.
They should have. It was Leia Delaria, who I think is from Orange is the New Black, as Kino in yesterday's Fandom casting, with Tony Shalhoub returning as the Wolf. Yeah,
That's wicked.
in this version, so you would think, okay, Superman just has to stop the landslide and stop all the rocks. He does something very different in here. He shows up on the train as Clark Kent and tries to be like, hey, like, oh, I don't have a ticket and I don't have any money. You're just gonna have to throw me off. And the conductor's like, you seem awfully willing to do that, sir. And he's like, I'm a reporter for the Daily Planet. I'm like, then I'm definitely not kicking you off. We cannot afford the bad press. And Clark is like, well, damn, because he was trying to figure out how to solve it without being Superman.
Aw, shucks.
So instead he pulls the cord to stop the train, and it stops just in time for the landslide to happen in front of them.
He's a terrorist.
So, and then he goes out and he unclears the train tracks as Superman, but he does it really quickly, and only like one train conductor sees that there's this dude in like a red cape and blue clearing out the tracks just in time for them. And he reports this, and they throw that conductor in the insane asylum for seeing Superman.
Oh my God. It's a collateral damage, man. Casualty of war that he won.
So
He's in the next padded cell over.
So in yesterday's
I swear I've seen him. I
in
swear I've seen
yesterday's
him.
recreation, they used clips from the Fleischer serial, The Bulleteers. That's the one with the train, to sort of have a visual going on for this one. And they had Nicholas Gonzalez as the conductor. Jason Alexander was the narrator for this one. And Wilson Cruz from Star Trek Discovery played Superman / Clark Kent in that recreation.
Nice.
Clark Kent goes back to the Daily Planet, and Perry White is like, what is this I hear about the Superman? And Clark Kent, in all later interpretations, would be like, I've got the scoop on that, Perry. But in this version, he's just like, don't believe any of that garbage. It's not doesn't want anybody to know that he's around. So this is very similar.
It's a bunch of bull honking,
Mandra.
Perry. Don't believe a word
It's
of
very
it.
much in the vein of, in the later seasons of Smallville, Clark would go around, and he would be known as the Blur. He'd be like this urban legend type of thing, but like nobody would quite know if he existed, sort of thing. So
Urban legend Superman. You know,
Yes.
we've gotten used to urban legend Batman.
Indeed, yeah.
Urban legend Superman would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So in the next episode, this is where we start seeing that Clark here is not the popular perception of Clark. So Clark Kent is kind of known as like this timid, like, oh, hi, Lois. Like, you want me to get coffee? Oh, never mind. That type of thing. This Clark Kent is just, he's basically the intrepid reporter, investigator. He's really good at detective work, actually, for the Superman. He's determined to get to the bottom of the story. He volunteers himself to get captured by the Wolf and Kino so that he could learn stuff from them. Now, we know that he's Superman, but
Yeah, if we could have more of that in the
yeah,
newer
exactly.
ones, I think. That's
you
cool.
almost
That's
forget
cool.
that he's Superman.
Yeah, that is cool.
Like he's a cool enough, because you realize that he's Clark Kent for most of these stories right now. So you kind of have to make him still a compelling character, so we're not like just waiting for him to get into the suit, because we can't see a suit. He has to be his own compelling character. So here he volunteers himself, and then whenever he's in a situation that a normal human being couldn't get out of it, that's when he's just like, this looks like a job for Superman. And
I
then
wonder if like
breaks out.
the popular perception in like the late 30s when this came about, early 40s, it was like, I wonder what the perception of what a nerd or a dork was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it was sort of different. And they probably didn't. I wonder if they even had a word for it at that time. I'm not
I don't
sure.
think so, no.
You probably were just called "you're weird" or
You're
something
a
like
square.
that. You're a square, dweeb.
A geek bites.
Geek still maybe comes
Yes.
from circus. I don't know when those come about.
Maybe, yeah.
And then it's like
They bite the head
it's
off of
still
chickens.
way too early for nerds to be like, I want to see nerds like me on the radio or in the comics. Like, I don't want to.
Right.
They're probably drawing them like, or the idea was, I want somebody not like me on the page, and then of course in on the radio show and
Right.
on all the other incarnations.
Right, because most of the
Just
popular radio
spitballing
shows,
here, guys.
Yeah, most of the radio shows at the time were mystery stories, were detective stories, and majority of the Superman radio show, he was going up against. There was no Lex Luthor in the show. There was no Brainiac. There's no Bizarro. Some of those characters didn't even exist yet. He was going up against like ordinary criminals with sometimes extraordinary weaponry, kind of like in some of the Fleischer stuff. But that was it. So the Wolf and Kino end up capturing Clark because he wants them to, which ends with the narrator being like, is Clark Kent in the clutches of the Wolf, or is the Wolf in the clutches of Superman? Which I thought was kind of cool. As the final recreation of this, they had CCH Pounder from the voice of Amanda Waller, as well as Bertha in RoboCop 3. Please check out the upcoming Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club podcast on that movie. And she's the narrator. Jason Isaacs took over as the Wolf in a very different interpretation from Tony Shalhoub. It was almost comical. Anthony, his Star Trek Discovery co-star.
Is he from Speed 2?
Jason Isaacs?
Jason Isaacs? Who's he again? No, he's got big
Lorca
eyebrows.
in Star Trek Discovery, as well as he was the villain in The Patriot. He was Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He dates the other guy. What's his name? I forget. I'm sorry. Cruz?
He dates? No, that's Anthony Rapp's character, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Anthony
I'm getting.
Rapp's-
Forgive me. I'm getting everybody confused.
Lorca's
Lorca.
the captain.
Oh.
He was the captain in the beginning, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a badass.
He's the Sinister too. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the Sinister
yeah,
dude.
yeah. That guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lorca's cool. He was a cool. He was a cool character.
Jason Isaacs has voiced a lot of DC characters. He was Lex Luthor in I think Justice League Gods and Monsters and everything. So I'm sure he loves this stuff.
I love the
Anthony
casting
Rapp,
in Discovery. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys have seen it, but it's a good show, especially the first season. Anyway, moving forward.
Anthony Rapp from Star Trek Discovery was Kino in this version. Anthony Kerrigan, who played Mr. Zaz in Gotham, as well as was last seen under heavy makeup as Dennis the Robot Assassin in Bill and Ted 3.
He's great.
Played the superintendent,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yes.
he's hilarious as superintendent. And then this
Yeah.
was my favorite.
He's in Barry
Yeah.
as well.
This was my favorite
So
of the
good.
Supermen from yesterday. It was Daniel Day Kim as Superman.
Oh yeah.
And
Wicked.
he was legit. He sounded like he had the spirit of Bud Collyer.
That's
as he
cool.
did. I'm like,
I want to go back and see that.
I'm like,
Like trapped in a necklace
yes,
or something?
trapped in his glasses.
Like in a
He's
crystal?
also the only one
In a bottled
he, well,
city.
He had like Clark Kent glasses on while he was reading it, and I was like, okay, I want to see more of this or hear
That's
more
cool.
of this.
Did he take him off?
He should have, honestly. I was expecting him to when he says, "This looks like a job for
That's true,
Superman."
he should have.
I would have loved it.
By
But
the
I
way,
think,
have you guys ever had this experience where I have literally been confused at one time where I sort of knew this dude. He usually wore glasses, and then the next time I saw him, he had no glasses on, and I fucking introduced myself as if I had never met him before. It has happened to me.
it works. The disguise works.
It does work. Your whole ambiance changes.
Yes. So they lock him up in this cell. They lock Clark up in the cell, and Wolf and Kino basically plan to leave him to starve to death in that cell that is 3 inches thick of steel. Of course, they don't realize that they imprison Superman, so Superman whenever Superman changes, there's no shirt rip, so instead, it's radio, so he's like, out of these clothes! Every single time he changes, like, out of these clothes! It's what every guy wants to say at the end of every day.
Yeah.
So, no shirt rips, but he punches through the quote-unquote 3-inch thick steel wall, and he's like, you were wrong, Wolf, 2.5 at the most! And he laughs about it. And I'm like, this guy's a badass.
Wait, so did George Reeves do the shirt rip thing? Like the first time they filmed it?
That might be Kirk Allen. When the 1940s serials, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that would be...
It was Nick Cage.
Oh, wait,
bro.
no way. He does the shirt rip and Fleischer, though, I think.
He does, yeah. But in terms of live action, it would be Kirk Allen, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
And when he breaks out, Clark sees a skylight, and he says, 1 jump, and we're up, and away! And that was the first instance of up, and away, is him escaping from the Wolf and Kino's lair in there. So he ends up capturing...
History.
Yeah, he ends up capturing the Wolf and Kino and destroys their car, and when the police arrive... They think these guys are crazy because they're talking about a flying man with super strength in a blue outfit and a red cape. Again, like nobody believes that Superman exists.
His underwear was where again? Can I just one more
on
time?
the outside?
On the outside.
Yes.
Man.
So it turns out
That
though,
ain't right.
The Wolf is not alone. He was working for a crime lord who calls himself the Yellow Mask, who's the next big bad.
That sounds. How do you feel about that, Ben?
He means a literal yellow mask. He's not supposed to be. He doesn't put on like an Asian accent or anything. He's
So
just
I'm
like,
the
this is the
racist
Yellow
one?
Mask. You said you jumped to that.
He's Black Mask's grandfather.
Yeah, Black Mask grandfather, the Yellow Mask.
They's miscegenated.
That's a oh brother quote. They miscegenate.
He's voiced by Julia Noah, who played
bored.
Perry White, but this time he actually changes his voice so he doesn't sound like Perry White. But because he sees that Clark Kent interfered with the plans of destroying the railroad, he decides to take out his revenge, and he threatens to blow up the Daily Planet. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's this plot that got adapted into the first Fleischer Superman cartoon. Except they changed the Yellow Mask, who wants to use an atomic beam machine from a plane to destroy the Daily Planet, and they turned it into the mad scientist who's using it from the headquarters type of stuff. Which brings me to episode 7, where we get introduced to another reporter by the name of Lois Lane.
Oh shit!
Took 7 episodes to get to her, so it's almost incredible. Yeah, but keep in mind they're each like 10 minutes. So the first actress to voice Lois Lane was an actress named Raleigh Bester, wife of a comic book writer of Green Lantern, Alfred Bester. So I thought that was interesting.
Oh really? So there?
Yeah,
he created the first Green Lantern. That guy.
It's a comic book writer. I don't think he created, like, Bill Finger co-created Green Lantern.
Oh shit.
This Lois already hates Clark. She hates Clark. She thinks he's a fraud. She doesn't buy that he's like a real journalist and stuff, because as far as she's concerned, he just walked in, easily got a job, somehow knew all about all this Wolf and Kino business and stuff, and so she becomes kind of a thorn in Clark's side.
She hates his male privilege, even though there wasn't a word for it.
She hates his white male privilege, yes.
Yes.
The Yellow Mask captures her and throws her out of a plane without a parachute. And Superman rescues her while she's kind of unconscious. But this is technically the first time that Superman flies with Lois Lane. Because remember, he never flew beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, unhand me, you
Well,
bitch.
she's unconscious, but she does vaguely remember being saved by a man in blue tights and a red cape. And that's how you
so
end.
he's still urban legendy, even
still
though,
urban legend, yes.
I gotcha.
Yes.
I don't ever dream of Harrison Ford.
Helen...
What?
Yes. Whatever.
It's from Ninja Turtles, bro.
Okay.
Made a podcast about it.
I don't remember the Harrison Ford quote.
Raleigh Bester was replaced by an actress named Helen Choate for a few episodes. As the second, I can't find anything in terms of why she was replaced. But Helen Choate.
Oh,
went
they
on
probably
to,
got pregnant and on their period or something.
You can still do voice acting on your period, Jesus.
That's what they were thinking
I'll
at the
get
time,
pregnant.
though. Probably.
Canceled.
So,
Shit. I just imagine like 9 times out of 10, every dude at this time period was Bob Kane.
Yes, pretty much.
Was a Bob Kane. So
It was like Mad Men. They're all drinking
dude,
cocktails
it must
at 9
have been
a.m.
pretty bad for women overall.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Lois did end up having a bigger and bigger part. So Helen Choate would play Lois for a few episodes. A few episodes later, in March 1940, they brought back the Wolf, Kino, and the Yellow Mask, where the Wolf and Kino break out, and the Wolf kind of wants revenge on the Yellow Mask for abandoning him. And there was kind of this hyped up episode called The Wolf versus the Yellow Mask. I'm like, this is awesome. And then just almost immediately, the Yellow Mask electrocutes the Wolf to death. So I'm like, okay, never mind then. Yeah.
Zap.
He was the best one.
So the Yellow Mask threatens to blow up a dam to cause a flood that will destroy a town.
Is it a goddamn?
No, it's just a regular dam. But if that sounds familiar, in terms of a dam getting destroyed, causing a flood, that was in Superman the movie, thanks to Lex Luthor.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It might have come from. There's a 1938 comic called Superman and the Dam, so that might be where it came from. But I thought that was interesting, and that ties into what happens with the Yellow Mask a little later. They brought back the Yellow Mask at least another time in a storyline called The Return of the Yellow Mask, and this time they advertised it, that the Yellow Mask was returning. So even though it was in audio form, they finally illustrated the Yellow Mask. And not only was he a dude with a thin yellow mask, but he was bald.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So
Dropping
this
those
ad came out.
bombs.
This ad comes out
So the wolf didn't get any characterization?
other than potentially eating an engine. So,
Yeah, he was a badass.
but yeah, no. So
That's how you
just some
do it.
backstory. Lex Luthor, when he was first shown, he was just a guy known simply as Luthor, and he had like cropped red hair when he first showed up. And sometime along the way, an artist named Wayne Boring said that he got confused and drew Lex Luthor with a bald head instead of with the red hair. And that's how Lex got the bald head, is because he messed up.
He's like,
Because he
They're
said
my
he
editor.
Like working
got
on
its...
late nights, trying to make
Yeah.
a deadline for the publisher, and then just fucked up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he said he got Luthor confused with another supervillain. Now, some think that it's the character, the Ultra Humanite, who first appeared in 1939, but he had like Patrick Stewart baldness, where it was just like mostly bald, but like, you know, like a hard TNG baldness.
That's
with
classy.
some hair.
Full on cue
that's
ball.
a classy horseshoe.
But the Yellow Mask has full on cue ball.
That makes me
And
comfortable.
again,
Especially
he tries to...
any dude in their mid to late 30s. It's
You know how I know that guy's a dickhead? Because the head's shaped like a dick.
Luthor? That's what you're talking about?
Yes, so Luthor
Yeah.
is, I'm saying potentially the Yellow Mask is the closest that we might have to a Lex Luthor, at least in the very beginning stages of the radio series.
Mad
Obviously,
scientist, he was
never reveal it.
balding, right? He had some hair, though, huh?
Yeah, he was balding, but he still had some hair. He didn't quite look exactly like it, but
Yeah.
it's close enough.
Oh, also that Reign of the Supermen thing. You know what I'm talking about? This was...
The original story that Siegel and Schuster wrote.
and that was a bald guy on that one, too.
Right. Do you want to explain that for the audience? who might not
Yeah,
know?
so... so this was like an original
What is this obsession?
treatment for Superman, but it was like a newspaper article. It wasn't even like a comic at this time, but there was an illustration to
It
go
was a
along with
prose story. It wasn't a comic. Yeah.
It was a prose story, and it was called Reign of the Supermen or Man. Reign of the Superman, and he was a bad guy. And I think it had, I don't know, I have to go back and look at it, but I think it has to do with the whole, once again, Ubermensch idea.
Yes.
And they're not liking this a whole lot, especially how it's being twisted from Nietzsche's ideas into Nazism, being that they're Jewish American. So it's,
I'd be curious. We could do a deep dive into reading that if we can find a copy of that.
Oh,
So
that's
that'd be
there's
interesting.
pictures of that all over the internet. We could
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
easily. It's only like 3 paragraphs, I think.
So yeah, a month later, in April 1940, they decided to add another major character to this, which is a red-headed, freckle-faced copy boy named Jimmy Olsen, or Jim Olsen. Sometimes Clark calls him Jim. This Jimmy Olsen is very different from the happy-go-lucky photography, always held hostage Jimmy Olsen. This Jim Olsen is a tough 14-year-old who lived with a single mom. His father died years ago. His mom is a victim of extortion from a mobster named Gyp Donnelly, and Superman steps in to help them out. His absent father it's not really explained how he died. I don't think it was from a crime, but the idea of Jimmy Olsen having an absent father actually has continued on into the comics. In the Supergirl series, they said he was killed in action, overseas as part of the military. At one point, they say they describe Jimmy's mom as "quote unquote" Mrs. Henry Olsen, which is also interesting because Henry was the name of Jimmy Olsen's brother in Smallville. I don't know if they dove that deep into the radio series to come up with that, or if that was coincidence. So I thought that was interesting. But when Gyp Donnelly shows up to Mrs. Olsen's store, she runs a candy store, he said, "See what happened to Schuster's window because he didn't have protection?" Schuster's window. Now, I thought that was interesting.
Little Easter egg.
Now, Siegel's father was the one who ran a store that got robbed.
Yeah.
But so it would have been interesting if they said Siegel, but it was Schuster's window. This Superman, here's how this Superman deals with the situation with the mobster. Because at one point, Donnelly, in revenge for Clark or Superman trying to help out with this extortion situation, he ends up kidnapping Lois. And so to interrogate a criminal, to find out where Lois is, basically Superman brings a criminal up into the air and flies him down. And when the criminal refuses to give him any information, Superman drops him. And then picks him back up from flying. And at this point, when I'm listening to this, I'm like, this is why I like Radio Superman. He's a detective. He interrogates criminals. Radio Superman is Batman.
Yeah,
basically.
Did the guy that was dropped? Did he say so from one professional to another?
Pick a better spot than 5,000 feet up.
And then Superman says, "I'm counting on it."
Yeah. So I was like, at this point when I was re-listening to everything, I'm like, okay, this is why I like this Superman.
An investigative reporter is an investigator. It's so close to a detective. You know,
I know,
it's
right?
they're very similar. It's almost
like
the same company made both of these guys.
Yeah, he's going up against criminals and all this too. So he often runs into trouble with his secret identity. So he's always like, "Oh, Lois is in trouble. I better go get her." And Perry White is like, "I'm coming with you." And Clark's like, "No, you don't have to do that, Chief," because like his way of like, "I'm going after her" is flying off as Superman, but he can't do that if Perry White is tagging along with him. So he always has to find some sort of excuse. But there's an episode called Horace Martin's Weather Machine where they debuted Joan Alexander, who took over as Lois Lane and became Lois Lane throughout the rest of the radio run, as well as was the actress who did Lois Lane's voice in the Fleischer cartoon.
What episode number are we at this point? Whenever she comes in,
we're many episodes in. So the show
something?
premiered in February of 1940. She first shows up in June. Joan Alexander's Lois shows up in June. So a few months in.
February to a few months in. So it's still the same year. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was with Joan Alexander that they found that she had the best chemistry with Bud Collyer, and this is also where they started changing the dynamic. Instead of being always antagonistic to Clark, she was kind of like frenemies, a little bit more friendly with him. Starts calling him Clark at one point instead of Mr. Kent. So
that's nice.
Like this is where it starts getting a little bit closer to the Lois that we
She understands the character the most somehow, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Joan Alexander then got fired. It says, quote, "I was fired from the part of Lois Lane about 3 months after I got it, and Bud Collyer said, if you're going to audition other girls, let Joan audition back for her part." And so I auditioned blind back for the part. I'm assuming blind meant like she just did the voice and people still picked from the best voices.
Yeah, yeah.
And she won the part again. And basically was Lois for the next 10 years.
I would say they were banging off screen, but it was a different time for one. I mean, though that did happen then as well.
Collyer was hardcore. Well, I mean, that doesn't mean
Collyer was. I know it's true, but Collyer did seem like genuinely religious, but not in a. I don't know. He was more of a real deal. It kind of seemed like a Mr. Rogers almost kind of type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Where you kind of buy. Oh, you're actually following some of the good parts of the morals of this shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
To continue the developing story, in September of 1940, in a story called Professor Thorpe's Bathysphere, Jimmy Olsen is trapped in a collapsing cave, and Superman pulls him out. And when he finally pulls Jimmy out and the cave collapses and Superman asks if he's all right, Jimmy stands there gaping because this is the first time that he's seen Superman, that he's seen evidence that this guy exists. And this is the first time that
one
Superman...
major bone.
Yeah, Superman, yes. This is the first time that he makes himself known to a regular good guy on the show.
Superman's number one pal, indeed.
Yes, indeed. He's number one. Jimmy would grow up. He would eventually be voiced by an actor named Jackie Kelk, who he wasn't the original one, but he's the most famous one. And he would graduate from copy boy to cub reporter, so that he would be more involved. And then they replaced the copy boy character with another kid named Beanie Martin, who was basically a dumber version of Jimmy Olsen, with a more annoying voice since it was a grown man pretending to have a cracking voice, as opposed to an actual teenager or youthful sounding actor like Jackie Kelp for Jimmy Olsen. So that was weird. Lois didn't see Superman until February 1941, so a good year into it, in a very racist story called The Dragon's Teeth.
Oh man, here we go.
So
I'm ready.
There's a man.
Dragons are people too.
There's a man named Juan, W-A-N, who who's serving tea that turns out somebody put poison in the tea he's serving, and Superman bursts in to stop her from drinking the poison tea, and she's like, "Oh my God, like Superman exists," or whatever. But this man ends up getting killed by I forgot the villain's name, but it's his villain and his henchman who's also Chinese. And Lois at one point says, "You and that Chinaman will get what's coming to them." So
I'm glad you read that line, Ben. If you sent it to me, I would have to refuse.
Oh, it gets
no
better
matter
later
which
on.
voice. I'll have to refuse on my rest on my laurels, or whatever the fuck the phrase is.
Yes. So at one point she gets caught in a sandstorm with said Chinaman.
That's one of the weirdest racial slurs to me, because it's just the country name and man, but you put it together and it's just
and
not
somehow
good.
Racist.
It's just not good, man.
Mexi Man. That'd be pretty good.
It's the name of the new Hispanic Latino superhero.
Mexi Man.
So Superman rescues her from the sandstorm and flies her all the way back to Metropolis, making this the first time that Lois has been conscious of Superman flying her around. So that was cool. 1942, they relaunched the series a little bit. This is where we got our first, let's say, New 52 style reboot.
Wow, they've been doing this forever, huh?
Where they're like, okay, let's actually do the origins. So they reboot it where Clark is adopted by the Kents on Earth. He's adopted by Eben and Mary Kent, because that was the names.
Eben sounds like it's like one of the thousands of names listed in the book of Leviticus or something, or whatever. And all the begats part, there's like a million names in that. And some of those names that sound more country than others are they're from that part of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that funny. Or I guess the Torah, maybe those books are the same, I think.
It is. Those were the original names at the time. And Eben Kent Dies in the Fire is the name of the episode, and unfortunately it's lost. So I did not get to hear their version.
Like a World War II kind of thing? It was lost in a fire? Or?
Yeah, a lot of these radio shows were... Some of them have been found, obviously, for us to hear, but unfortunately that one has also been lost, as well as the next one that I'm going to go into.
Oh, that sucks.
1943, we got to realize, radio shows was basically Monday through Friday, as opposed to every week. Keep in mind, they're only 10-minute segments.
Oh, wow.
And they were done live, so you would have to come in every time.
Oh, I forgot they were live. That's cool.
Yeah. Bud Collyer...
The sound effects and stuff? That's cool.
Collyer needs a break in certain days, but he's Superman. You can't have episodes of Superman without Superman, so how do you do that? And they're like, well, what if we found something where Superman can't talk because he's incapacitated, if there's some reason why he's weakened? And that's where they came up with Kryptonite. They came up with Kryptonite because Bud Collyer needed a break.
That's amazing, actually. I love that really practical, real-world reason for...
It's a metaphor for fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So deep there, bro.
Yes.
That shit's deep like the ocean, bro.
So, it was a story also lost, unfortunately, called The Meteor from Krypton in 1943.
Superman, for the first time in his life, faces an enemy against which he is entirely powerless. That enemy is a piece of shit. No. That enemy is a piece of the planet Krypton. Okay.
Doing it Marlon Brando style.
That enemy is a piece of the planet Krypton. Kryptonite, it is called, which a few days ago struck Earth in the form of a meteor. A full understanding of his danger came to Superman when he approached the Kryptonite for the first time, as he came within 5 feet of the mass of metal, which glowed like a green diamond. he suddenly felt weak, as if all his strength had been drained from him.
And that was the first Kryptonite story.
And then a lot of nerds are like, fuck this bullshit. Fucking
He's
Rock.
a Rock.
Can't believe this. My hero taken down by a goddamn piece of fucking stupid ass Rock.
Yep.
Has there ever been a pseudo-scientific explanation as to what's happening to Superman's physiology when he comes in contact with this
I think
rock?
some sort of radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
pretty
radiation,
much.
Yeah, that's generally what it is. Although you reminded me, Wolfie, there is a pseudo-scientific reason for how he flies, and that is his brain is able to control gravitons, which gravitons is like a real particle. Obviously has something to do with gravity. So if you can control how your body interacts with gravity, you can essentially fly.
So he's a humanoid UFO.
Pretty
Yes.
much. Let's see. The next.
I know what's going on.
Here's the next major storyline, and this is a surprise for you guys. March 1945, we have a story called Mystery of the Waxman, where a letter arrives to the Daily Planet asking for Superman's help. Superman's not really around, so Lois and Jimmy go to try to find who wrote this letter, and they find a rowboat drifting with an unconscious boy inside. And they get caught in the middle of the ocean. Superman has to rescue everybody, and he goes to the boy, and he looks at the boy and he says, "Great Scott! If this is who I think it is, this is serious business." Because the boy is wearing a yellow cape, a mask, and a red vest with the letter R on his chest. So, when we return from the break, we'll go into a surprise deep dive of the fact that the radio series is the very first time Batman and Superman ever worked together in history.
Nice.
I was wondering that. Okay.
They also worked with Bruce Lee one time.
Hey, Batman. So, I was wondering if I could have, 100 of those Vichyssoise bowls. Or, a vat of Vichyssoise, and I know it's supposed to be cold. So, yeah, that'd be cool. I am pretty hungry.
I'm sorry, kid, but Alfred's been dead for a while, and I don't even know how to make it anymore.
Alfred's dead? When did that happen?
I don't know, about 10 years ago?
What? How do you even make Vichyssoise anymore, then?
I don't. I just go off of tea and oatmeal crackers.
Oatmeal crackers, okay. So you're telling me you don't have that recipe for Alfred's Vichyssoise, at all?
I'm sure I could dig it up in the files. You sure you don't want any of the other things in the pantry?
I'm just really craving. I just know it's weird, but really want that Vichyssoise. Is it fishy? Or is it just vishy? Just sounds like fishy. What is it?
It's Vichyssoise.
Okay, I'll take the what was it, oatmeal cookies? What do you have?
Oatmeal crackers, and we got peanuts, we got almonds, we got, let's see.
I think I'll go for,
cashews.
I think I'll go for basically all of that. How much you're rich, right? Do you have, a vat of, all of it?
Kid, you want to get nuts?
Yes!
Come on!
Yes!
Let's get nuts!
Oh, yes. Let's go. Sprouts? Some other local supermarket with lots of nuts? Or you already have that here?
You'll see.
I'll see. Okay, that's kind of ominous there. What? See what again?
The nuts.
All right, everybody, if you like that little preview to the sketch right there, we have that, plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review-type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
Oh!
Hey, how are you? This is another world's leading bio-exorcist, and I want all you deadbeats out there in podcast land to go ahead, make my millennia, and keep listening to superhero stuff you should know. It's a nice fucking podcast.
I said certified freak, 7 days a week. Wet ass pussy. Make that pull-out game week. Woo! And we're back.
Yes. So, where we left off. Well, actually, let me check in with you guys in terms of what do you think so far of Superman, the radio version of this, starting with Wolfie.
These are really cool. I like those earlier episodes when they kind of skip to the punch, whatever what that expression
Like,
is.
fuck the Kents. We're going right into it. He's already Superman.
He steps out of the spaceship punching somebody.
I really liked the Wolf. I think it's unfair that they wrote his character out. I think he needs to come back.
That wouldn't be biased at all from a guy named Wolfie, right?
Yeah, this Yellow Mask character, he's suspect.
Racist.
How's he gonna kill the Wolf? I don't believe it.
Yeah,
but
no.
I think they're
the Wolf
pretty
was
cool
such
so
a
far.
cool villain name, and the way the guy plays him is just so like, you know, at 10 o'clock the Silver Clipper will never make its destination. Was like the way that he talked, and it was
True
so
evil.
cool. Yeah,
Pure evil.
So Andrew, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of good things that maybe they should bring back from this
Yeah.
time, you know, like
Yeah,
a little bit more assertive Clark at, you know, that sounds good to me. Maybe a little bit older Clark, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of good stuff there that's maybe been lost. And I'd like to see
stuff.
the
Welcome
Wolf
back to
come
good
back
stuff.
as well, and the Luthor stuff connecting to you know, the Yellow Mask, I think
Right.
is really interesting. So
Yeah, because
Yeah.
even
And if you sidestep the racist, well, I guess the Yellow Mask himself is not very racist, but bring him back too.
Yeah.
That's great.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, and that was cool because I theorized as a kid that the Yellow Mask was Luthor.
Oh,
the
right.
entire time.
Right.
So to find out, because I didn't know the whole bald head thing until I was researching for this episode. So I was like, I might have been onto something. Nice action figures. So speaking of which, I got, as you can see, I've got joining me is Batman and Robin, old school versions.
Okay, so
Wicked.
like you said, those are cool. But like you said before the break,
Yes.
Superman first meets Robin,
He meets Robin first, and there's
and
a reason.
then meets Batman. That's so interesting, like pop culture history-wise.
Yes. So we'll go into Mystery of the Waxman. This is the first crossover. This might be the first DC adaptation to crossover superheroes ever.
Comics didn't do it yet, huh?
They had with the Justice Society and things, Justice Society of America and stuff, but this was the first time somebody actually adapted that into
Okay.
production.
Yeah.
So this is 1945, and this predates the first story in the comics where Batman and Superman teamed up, which is Superman number 76 in 1952. So we're 7 years early on this, and we're establishing the original dynamic between Superman and Batman. They had appeared in like comic book covers, and there's like one panel in like an issue of All-Star Comics with them together, but they're not actually part of a story.
How long did it
in
take to get them to talk about Martha? Like pretty much immediately, or what?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, remember. Well,
That's obviously
another
the
trivia.
crux of their whole relationship. We all
They
know
wouldn't
that.
have talked about it. They wouldn't have talked about it in the 40s because in the 40s, in the early, at least at this time, remember, it's Mary Kent.
Mary.
It was
Oh
Mary
shit!
Kent.
Their name not
And
even the same.
Martha Kent was not even named Martha until a little bit further into the 40s in Batman number 47. In the original origin, it was just Thomas Wayne and his wife.
Oh my
So
god!
Bill Finger didn't even give her. Neither one of them were named Martha, I think, at this point. If I look up, let me quickly look up Batman number 47.
Times weren't good for women. She didn't even get a name.
It should. It did not. They did not quite. Yeah, 1948 was when Martha.
Just say the line, Toots.
Martha. Yeah. Martha, why did you say that name? Wait, hold on. Why did you say that name? There we go. So, Martha, yeah, she wasn't named until 1948. This is 1940, again, 1945. And then Martha Kent had been Mary Kent the whole time. I don't think she was really named. Let me see when the first time she was named was. Until the 1950s.
Jubei.
There was no Martha connection in the 1940s.
Chubei.
So
Yeah, she had a Japanese name. Japanese guy's name.
So, I get the feeling that when they crossed over Batman into the Superman radio show, they only had the rights to certain things. And I have a feeling that they did not have the rights to any Batman villains. So don't expect the radio series to have Superman, Batman versus Joker or Two-Face or any of those characters at this point. The first villain that they face off together is a man named Zoltan. Zoltan. He's been kidnapping scientists and encasing them in wax and then shipping them to enemy countries for profit. And the reason why Robin needs help is because Batman is missing. And so Superman and Robin go around and find that Zoltan has turned Batman into a wax statue. He's encased him in wax.
That's pretty cool, though.
So
there he is.
They break him out of the wax, and this is unfortunately is a lost story. They can't find the full recording of Mystery of the Waxman. There was only 2 episodes surviving, and neither one of them actually have Batman in them. It's just Superman reading Robin. I think those are like chapters 2 and 3. But apparently the line that Batman says after they get out of the wax statue is, and I'll say this as Adam West, "No one's gonna make a dummy out of me."
That's a perfect line for that situation.
All right, let me say that again as Kevin Conroy. "No one's going to make a dummy out of me." So they team up to take down Zoltan.
Can you do?
No one's going to take a dummy out of me.
He's moving his head.
That's pretty good.
Moving his head around. The key is to move the head around.
That's all it is.
That's pretty good.
Supposedly Margot Robbie, her being Australian, she had a hard time getting the Jersey accent down.
Oh, really?
For Harley Quinn, but the story I've heard was she didn't really get it till she imagined herself getting her nails done and doing like this motion with her nails, and like that's what really sealed the deal. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
she's a gem.
Let's see. The first actor to voice Batman on the radio, even though the footage is lost, so we don't know what his Batman voice sounded like, was a man named Stacey Harris. So Stacey is the second actor to ever play Batman. Because Lewis Wilson played Batman in live action in the 1943 serial. But the main Batman actor to voice, the main guy who voiced Batman throughout all his appearances, because Batman shows up a lot in this radio show, is an actor named Matt Crawley, before he was taken over by Gary Merrill. Matt Crawley's Batman voice sounds like a regular 1940s everyday man. It is not...
Like Bob Kane.
Yeah, there's no like Bud Collier's doing the whole Clark Kent and Superman, like, hi Mr. White, I'm Superman. Like, Batman doesn't do that. Batman and Bruce Wayne sound exactly the same. There's no switch between at all.
I'm Batman, you see.
Let's see.
Got my cape and I got my pointy ears. Let's do this. Aha.
He's the one who's most associated with Batman on radio, and recordings of him obviously survive for me to know that. An actor named Ronald Liss, a young actor named Ronald Liss, was the voice of Robin in all the appearances. And the narrator of the program, Jackson Beck, voiced Alfred in his appearances, putting on a fake English accent. And let's see.
Wow.
But the first surviving Batman and Superman story it's a cool one. It's called Dr. Bly's Confidence Gang. And Dr. Bly's in charge. He's like this crime lord, and his one of his main criminals is a woman named Dixie Lamar, who kills a federal agent. And he has to figure out how to help her get away with it until he realizes that Dixie Lamar is a doppelganger of Lois Lane. So he frames Lois for the crime, and Batman, Robin, and Superman have to clear her name. So I was listening to this, and there's a lot of interesting shit in the 1940s radio Batman. First off, there's no mention of Gotham City at all. In this version, Batman and Robin seem to operate in Metropolis together.
They're trying to keep it simple, I guess.
Yeah,
it's before people were really attached to those ideas too, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. Batman is described in his first appearance in this thing as wearing a bright blue hood and cape. A later appearance would say he is a tall man in a skin-tight gray costume. I might as well pull Adam West for this. Gray costume, blue cape, blue hood, and mask. Now, why do they keep saying that he has a hood? And here's the theory on this. Here's how he was usually illustrated in the comics. The blue with the surroundings of the ears, but the front part is black. So it seems that they interpreted that this black part is actually a separate mask, and this was a hood pulled over it, based off of how.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's how they
interesting.
described it. Yeah.
Also, like how we all say cowl now because it's so integrated into
Animated series.
You know, the animated series and all that. But
Yeah.
how common was that word at this time as well? You know?
I don't remember even seeing or reading that word in any of the comics at the time.
I don't. I think somehow they found out the exact right word. It's not a mask. It's a cowl. You know, there's like an exact fashion item. You know, whatever, like exact terminology for that piece of wear, and we've been using it ever since. But before that, I could see them using a word like hood. Yeah.
What is a cowl besides what we know from Batman?
It does differentiate from mask, I think, because
It's like a
do-rag
that
that
goes over your eyes.
over the whole head, I think.
Okay.
yeah, over the whole head. A mask is just on the front.
Yeah. So as you notice, also for this Funko version, based off of the comics, this is from the 60s as well, the black with the blue over it. So that's how they interpreted it. But here's the interesting thing as well. They describe that Robin also wears a hood, making the Radio Robin the first hooded Robin, which we see later on with the Damian Robin and everything. So this predates all of that. The Batmobile is basically just described as a bat-shaped car, so they don't really go that much into it. And Clark and Batman's first instance of working together is going into this dark tunnel where Lois was kidnapped. In this version, Clark knows Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same, and he knows Dick Grayson and Robin are the same. Batman does not know Clark Kent and Superman are the same guy, though.
Oh,
Which, again,
okay, that's interesting.
Interesting, because usually you would think world's greatest detective would know this stuff.
He's a fucking idiot.
Glasses, bro. Look at the glasses.
And
That's
then,
one thing you just gotta let go, because I mean, like even like geniuses like Luthor, you know, it's like, anybody would, you know. I know I had that story earlier about me, but I'm not a billionaire genius type. You know what I mean?
Well,
geniuses?
there's a
I'm
fantastic,
not a baby genius.
There's a fantastic story by John Byrne where a woman figures out that Clark Kent is Superman and tells Lex Luthor, and Lex Luthor says you're fired. Because there's no way that a godlike being would pretend to be an ordinary man like Clark Kent.
Yeah, that's true.
Did she ever come back as a villain?
I wish. I think she does at some point.
This dame is too smart for her own good.
So Clark and Batman go into this tunnel. And again, Batman does not know that Clark is Superman. But Superman picks up on more clues than Batman because he can see in the dark. He can see through the walls of X-ray vision and everything. So I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Like, Superman can be a better detective than Batman because of his superpowers in here.
I have a question about this too.
Yeah.
In the dark, Superman switches to X-ray because
He can.
Does he have
Well,
super see in the dark vision, or how's it supposed to work?
I think in this one, he has a bit of both.
Okay.
He just controls it
He
whenever.
can see tachyon particles.
Yes.
Yes, they knew
And the
Tachyon at that
midichlorians.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in the current comics, the common dynamic, as we covered in No Man's Land, where like Superman arrives in No Man's Land and Batman's like, "You have 24 hours to clean my city." Like he's ordering Superman around, and in this version, like Superman is the main character, so Batman never outshines Superman in the radio series. Superman would always be the one to figure shit out. Superman would almost be a better detective than Batman, which leads me into the biggest thing that I discovered, because at first I thought this was a cool thing that they played around with the tunnel, and then I realized, oh, that's not the case here. Superman's a better detective than Batman overall in the whole radio series, because Radio Batman is incompetent. And I didn't realize this until I was going through. Radio Batman needs Superman to rescue him all the time. He does not seem to have any gadgets, doesn't have a batarang, or all he's got is the Batmobile. His main go-to whenever he's stuck in a situation is to yell for Superman to help him. Whenever Robin is in danger, he always seems to have a breakdown. And Superman has to talk him out of it.
Oh my
He's
god!
like the Green Hornet.
There's this one part where Batman thinks that Robin is dead, and he's like, I'm going to make them pay, and Superman's like, that's right, get mad so we can get to work. And I'm like, what the hell is this dynamic? But that is actually the original Batman and Superman dynamic in history is Batman being a complete idiot, logical one who was always the smartest.
Oh, look, Batman, there's no point just standing here in front of Spider's apartment with long faces and the feeling that all is lost.
I'm afraid that just about sums up the situation, Superman. Robin is, well, he...
Now, wait a minute. It's not like you to give up so easily.
But what else can we do? This is the end of the trail, and Robin's not here.
Nonsense. The very fact that the boy's not here indicates that this is not the end of the trail.
Then where does it go from here?
Well, that's what we've got to find out, and fast.
Yes, but how?
Well, I don't know exactly.
That's it.
Maybe we can pick up a clue inside Spider's apartment that'll put us on the trail again.
Well, say, that's a possibility. But can we just break in there, I mean, without a warrant or anything?
I know it's illegal, but there's a life at stake.
Right, and I'm for doing it.
Okay, stand back. Mr. Spider Gams, here we come.
So, even though we're used to the dynamic being Batman's always the smart one and Superman is just like the main power brawn one, that's actually a role reversal of history.
Wow.
That's a role
Maybe
reversal.
they need
of the
to go
original
back to that a little bit.
It is hilarious.
Superman was also super smart.
Yeah, exactly. And also have detective skills because he's an investigative reporter. It makes sense
Make
for him
Batman
to have
a
that.
little more like Wolverine. So he's a little bit more of a brute.
I'm the best there is at what I do. And then you contrast
And what
that
I
with...
do isn't very nice.
Contrast that because, like, in the radio, like, some people were like, oh, well, Radio Batman, maybe that's how he was in the comics at the time. And that's where I'm like, fuck no, this was Batman in 1939. And, you know, instead of Batman getting, just falling apart and nearly crying and not knowing what to do with himself when Robin was in danger, in Batman number 5, one of the early Batman stories, in the case of the Honest Crook, Batman gets so pissed about Robin's injuries, he hunts down the criminals, gets shot 3 times, still beats the shit out of them with the 3 bullets in him, brings them to the police, and then passes out from his bullet wounds.
Yeah,
That was Batman in the 1940s.
Damn.
Nice.
So
By the way,
they were
this
not
is-
doing that for this.
They were not doing that at all for this radio version.
So there's a whole generation of like our grandparents maybe that grew up with, or maybe our great grandparents at this point, that grew up with that Batman, and so by the so when Batman, when Adam West Batman comes out, they're like, "That's not my Batman. My Batman's an idiot."
Yeah. I was looking at the episodes on YouTube, and this one user named Patch says, quote, "This Dark Knight would have to work up to the level of 60s Batman, and geez Louise, there's no sense of action or bravery in the man." By the way, I'm wearing the logo of the 1940s Batman. You can't really see it because it's obscured by the microphone, but here, I'll lean back for a bit so you can stand up so you can see it.
Nice.
But yeah, that's why I'm wearing that for today. But he would often say, "Great Jupiter," and Robin,
Batman would say that.
"Great Jupiter, Superman." Yeah.
Jumping Jehoshaphat, Superman.
"Great Jupiter, Superman. What should we do?" And
Gee
then Batman would
willikers.
always be emotional and like not think things through, and Superman would always have to pull him back and be the logical one. I'm like, this is weird.
I like that.
Yeah, Robin does not have the holy catchphrase at this point.
Oh,
but he does.
does that come? That comes from
That's
the
Burt
'66
Ward,
show,
yeah.
right? Does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
exist before that at all?
No.
That's what I thought. I thought that was the case. Yeah.
Did they catch flack from the religious right
On that,
for that?
I don't think so. They
Holy-
caught more flack from the religious right on Burt Ward's dick than they did on the. than they
Is
used
it
to
true
Holy.
that they gave him pills to make his wiener smaller?
Yes.
That's
At least according
ridiculous.
to him.
I
According
would-
to him.
That dude. That's something you just you would never take. You just gotta like tape it back. You gotta tape it back or something. You know what I mean?
Don't take pills to fuck that up.
I mean,
is
if he is as blessed as he says he was, then
But
or
in
as
a-
he is, I guess. Then that's just something. I would. I'd quit
Although-
honestly, I'd quit the job before I take those pills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They probably
It's not worth
didn't
it.
work. That sounds
Yeah.
weird.
What pills can shrink your dick? That's ridiculous.
And also in
It's
that
usually the
Bruce
opposite.
Lee biography, they talk about how Adam West and Burt Ward were swinging 60s, baby. They were getting it left, right, and center.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
No.
that probably
Yeah.
did happen. Yeah.
And top and
So
bottom.
Robin doesn't say, holy rusted metal Batman from like Batman Forever and stuff. He says Christopher Columbus. So it's,
Sure was
That
a
might as well be
great
a swear
guy.
word.
Batman says, "Great Jupiter," and Superman says, "Great Scott," just like Doc Brown.
Dude, if the Batman pulls out like a Great Jupiter or like a ridiculously deep cut that we're discussing right now, I will stand up in my fucking seat. I don't care who's sitting behind me post-COVID. I will be like,
"Said Great Jupiter."
Oh my fucking god!
You'll be like, "Oh, you people are idiots because I'm the only one that knows. And none of you know. This is my theater."
Why did he say that?
Please listen to Superhero Stuff You Should Know, by the way, so you can understand that reference too.
Yeah.
Plug the podcast before you get beat up.
I would love for them to do like these super deep Easter eggs.
Yes,
that would be so cool.
Too. Let's see, there's more on the way. So they needed a police ally at this time, and I think this episode is also the first appearance of it. They created, for whatever reason, they couldn't go with Commissioner Gordon, so they created Commissioner Gordon for Superman, and his name is Inspector Bill Henderson. Who transferred over into the I think he's in the George Reeves show.
He sounds like he's from Fargo originally. Bill Henderson.
Oh, you betcha.
Oh yeah.
Bill Henderson.
Oh yeah, I'm in Metropolis.
Bill.
A lot
Henderson,
of times now they make Bill Henderson African American now. So he was played by David Gupta in Black Lightning, and he became Black Lightning's police contact on the CW show.
Cool.
But Dr. Blythe's confidence game seems to be the first of many stories where Superman and Batman team up, where there's some kind of imposter of a regular hero or character like Lois Lane, and Inspector Henderson always gets tricked into thinking that, like, oh, it's definitely Lois Lane who killed this guy, or it's definitely Superman who's robbing these banks. So he's not very good at his job. Let's see. Superman would often fly with Batman and Robin by holding each guy under his arm. Get under my arm, Batman.
Little ass bitch.
Batman would always try to go places with Clark in the Batmobile, and Clark's like, we don't need to take the Batmobile. We can go. I can take you as Superman. And Batman's like, oh, that's right. I forgot.
I don't want to fly today. It's...
Yeah. And I gotta come back all the way over here and get my car in the morning.
You got like Super BO as well. I'm under your armpit. It kind of sucks, man. Let's just take the car.
Hey, Kryptonians don't sweat. Superman. Okay. Here's another thing. Clark, Bruce, and Dick are all terrible at keeping their identity secret. So Clark often says, I flew over there. I took a plane. Over there.
You sure do fly a lot, Clark, for it being 1939. That's pretty rare in these times.
Planes still made of balsa wood back then?
Yes, it was. Ray was flying Wright brothers. Shit,
that's
right. Actually, that was only like 15 years earlier, by the way.
Probably.
It's the alien technology, of course.
Of course, yeah. He says, this looks like a job for Superman in front of other characters sometimes. And Jimmy Olsen is like, why did you just sound like Superman? And he's like, oh, I was just got excited, Jim. At one time, Bruce is worried about Robin being kidnapped, and he keeps referring to Dick as Robin, and they're like, why do you keep calling him Robin? The most ridiculous is Clark Kent literally gets in the back of a taxi cab with Batman and tells him where they're going to go, who they're going to cross-examine, and why, because Batman's a complete idiot and doesn't know how to do detective work in this version. And then Clark tells Batman, hey, you better change into being Bruce Wayne. In the back of a taxi cab. And then Clark then immediately speaks to the taxi cab driver. So he basically just outed Batman's secret identity to this taxi cab driver in this episode called the Monkey Burglar.
I felt at this time it was like only a couple steps above Looney Tunes, like they just didn't take it seriously, man. Like they were some internal logic, but they probably, it wasn't like today where it had to be so watertight. It is silly. I'm not saying it's not silly, but I just think that, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I feel like maybe the fandom at the time, maybe they just didn't require it that much to be so logically sound. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe.
Was the demographic kids or like all ages? Families?
Mostly all ages, especially like it was mostly all ages, pretty much on this. But I mean, kids, of course, were listening in and tuning in because
except for that one on Saturday night called Batman's Bunga Bunga Lounge. That was a different
that
one
didn't
entirely.
work out. Yes. There were other attempts to have a Batman solo radio series.
Oh, there were.
However,
yeah.
I will save that for our deeper dives for the Patreon.
That didn't happen? Wait,
that
I won't
did
ruin
not
it.
happen. That did not happen. But we have recordings of what those were.
What?
So
This
go
is
into
like
that
this is like
in the
Batman
Patreon.
musical shit. Like, to me, that was one of the most mind-blowing episodes we did because no one talks about it, and there's fucking recordings of the shit left and right. Like, I couldn't believe it.
So
if you're listening to this, it's one of your first
we'll go into that
episodes.
later.
Go back into our log, listen to Batman the Musical. It's personally one of my favorite ones that we've done.
Same.
So yeah.
Let's see. Later that same year in 1946, there would be adventures where Kryptonite gets split up into 4, and 4 villains each taken. And this
I
would
like
be
stuff like
long-running
that.
storylines.
This is
The
before
first-
Red Kryptonite and all that shit, right? This is
Yeah.
just green.
That was all 50s. That was all 50s shit. So radio series only dealt with just pure Kryptonite, green, weakened Superman, end of story.
Some of that green,
the
baby.
First one, the first one was called the Scarlet Widow. We will go into the Scarlet Widow later because the Scarlet Widow, not the comics, but the Scarlet Widow was the basis for the first Superman movie, starring Kirk Allen.
Oh, the Mole
the
Men?
radio serial.
Oh, that one.
No.
Yeah, I got you.
No, the Superman serial. The second one was the Atom Man. This is one of the most
serial.
famous storylines. The second radio series of this, where the Nazis got a hold of Kryptonite and put it into one of their own agents, who is the Atom Man, a man with Kryptonite flowing through his veins.
This
So
sounds
is
like the precursor to Metallo, basically.
Exactly. So
Tight.
Atom Man was early Metallo, and that was the basis for the second Superman movie starring Kirk Allen.
did
Superman
they-
versus the Atom Man.
How did they mess up calling him the Kryptonite?
I don't know.
I'll give you that one, Wolfie. That was pretty good.
Obvious.
I like
yeah,
that.
the Atom Man-
Again, Adams, Superman, especially at this time, is such a like. He exists in the realm of vintage sci-fi in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's not vintage at this point, but I don't know. I feel like that's a way to look at the character. I mean, he needs to be updated for sure, but I do like the old popular mechanics magazines influencing Siegel and Schuster and all that bullshit. Like, I think that's so cool. So it's a interesting time because it seems like at that time, maybe more than now, but then again, maybe it's rose-tinted glasses, but it seems like science was so fun and new. I mean, it wasn't new, but you know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot going on. And, I mean, there's a lot going on now, but I feel like people are just so fucking jaded with science now. Like, people...
Right.
There's literally a fucking spaceship circling around us right now, the International Space Station. No one gives a fuck. But, you know what I mean? But I feel like people... I don't know. I don't know what it is.
There's more of a sense of wonder.
A sense of
back in the time
wonder
for science
surrounding it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
All my friends are talking about it.
Mystery. Okay, well, you got
Sure.
cooler friends.
Good for you. Let's see.
It's all we talk about, space. Come on.
In a storyline called Looking for Kryptonite, though, Superman finally revealed his true identity for the first time to somebody, and that was Bruce Wayne.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
I don't think there's any
cool.
comic before 1945, 1946 that did that, but he did that here, and so from then on, Bruce Wayne always knew that Clark and Superman were the same guy. Dick Grayson, however, did not. So Bruce promised not to tell Dick for whatever reason. I mean, they pretty much work together all the time.
Wait, so
'Cause
hold on.
it's
Back
big
up real
mouth.
quick. Bruce tells Dick that he's not going to tell him about
No,
Clark.
he tells Clark. No, he tells Clark
That he's not gonna-
I'm not going to tell Dick Grayson. So Dick Grayson doesn't know that Superman is Clark.
Oh,
Kent.
I got you.
In
To
fact,
this
I
day?
think
Yes, Wolfie, yes.
Yeah, no. No, in the
I'd
radio
be
series, I
pissed.
think Batman is the only one in the entire radio series, I think, who knows that Bruce Wayne, who knows that Clark Kent is Batman.
It was my
Kent is Superman.
superb detective skills, of course, that led me to finding out. Cut to, he
let's
just
see, let me
fucking
go-
told him.
My favorite Batman Superman story is a story called Is There Another Superman? And this ties into the Fleischer stuff, actually, because you noted in the episode Showdown, there was an imposter Superman. That was like the first instance of an evil Superman of a guy dressed up in a Superman outfit. They updated that type of story where there's a Superman supposedly robbing banks and giving money to charity and everything.
Oh, yeah, there was a
Batman
Fleischer
and
one
Superman.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They do some interesting shit because not only is Batman in this, but Clark has been exposed to Kryptonite so much he's been getting a lot of headaches, random sleeping periods, and he believes this might actually be him. He might actually be robbing these banks. And there's like a note left, and it matches Superman's handwriting. And there's like a cool moment where he like reveals this to Batman, where he's like, Clark Kent is right-handed, but as Superman, I write with my left hand.
What, really?
Yeah, to protect his identity. So like that's a cool little tidbit of Radio Superman.
That is cool.
Batman, however, has this is one of the few times Batman is like a legit detective. He's like, I don't buy your amnesia thing. Could there be another Superman, Clark? Could there be another you? And Clark's like, well, no, I was the last survivor of the planet. And Bruce is like, are you sure? So this is like the first time we've proposed that there could be an evil Kryptonian in history. Cool. Bizarro doesn't show up till the 50s. Zod doesn't show up until the 60s. And the Phantom Zone shit, none of that shit was ever explored at this time. So there's a possibility that we have this whole ambiguity throughout the whole story. Is Superman actually committing crimes in his sleep, or is there an evil Superman committing these robberies, and is Batman right?
I think it's one of the Supermen that he shoots out of his fingers.
Wasn't he in part 4?
The mini Superman.
Wasn't he what?
Wasn't there a second Superman in part 4, Solar Man?
Oh, in the Quest for Peace?
Nuclear
It's not
Man.
really
What is
another
his name?
Superman, yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I forgot
I actually, full disclosure, you guys, I've never seen Superman 3 or 4. Everyone says they're complete shit. Okay, so have you seen them, Wolfie?
I've only seen 4. I've only seen 4.
You skipped 3?
You've never seen Superman the movie?
Three?
You skipped 1 and 2?
I was a little guy. I don't know.
Okay,
I've
that checks out. Actually,
seen,
yes.
I've seen parts of the one with Richard Pryor. I know I've seen one, but like I don't remember any of it.
Isn't there one where he rips off his shield and throws it like
Superman
Captain
2,
America? Is that in
It's
2?
2, yeah. They made fun of that in Family Guy
Shield?
perfectly too, where Peter's like, remember in Superman, I can't do a Peter Griffin impression. It's like, remember Superman 2 where he had that cellophane,
Remember the
and
time?
that cellophane S, and he throws it at Non, and Non gets wrapped in cellophane,
yeah.
and he's just like, what was that? Superman's like, I thought I would stop you. He's like, that was a minor inconvenience.
I saw the Donner cut of.
Oh,
Superman
that's
2.
why.
It's the only
That's
one I've
why.
ever seen.
Yeah, it's not in the Donner cut.
I've never
Yeah,
seen
it's not in the
that.
Donner cut.
I
We'll
gotcha.
watch
Okay.
the two different versions of Superman 2 and go into which one is better. Again, we keep previewing deep dives and stuff here, but let's see. At one point,
Yeah, and going back to callbacks and
yes.
whatnot.
It's good advertising, though. This will call another callback to our Batman Lifestyle episode. Bruce orders for him and Clark another diet thing: scrambled eggs, bacon, buttered toast, and a glass of milk. So let's add that to his diet. 1940s incompetent Batman has that. Huge breakfast probably would slow him down.
And some cigarettes for the nerves.
Carbs, high cholesterol.
The glass of milk does remind me, though, that in the
Fat.
1966 movie, I did not mention this in the Lifestyle episode, but in the 1966 movie, when Adam West's Bruce Wayne takes out Kitka, Catwoman, on a date, she's drinking alcohol. He's drinking a glass of milk.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Let's see.
Unwavering.
Dude, if I was Batman, I'd also stay away from milk just because it's so
Yeah.
heavy on the system, bro.
Seriously,
I couldn't
especially
be fighting crime when I got
Yeah.
the milk sloshing around.
Let's see. Another cool
It gives me the energy boost that I need.
Yes. Another cool Easter egg
Is Superman at this time? By the way, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but Superman at this time, does he power up via the sun?
You know, I would have to look into that. It's not formally said in any of the episodes that I listened to. I don't think that was a thing
right.
yet. One of the witnesses to this evil Superman is a man named Sam Wilson, which is the future name of the Falcon in the Marvel universe.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah,
First
with
crossover?
Marvel before the character was even created, before the Falcon was created.
Is this right before Amalgam?
It's definitely
Amalgam
before
Comics,
Amalgam
yeah.
in 1946.
Superman fought
What an
Thor in that,
event.
right?
Superman what? Oh yeah, I think so.
Superman
yeah,
fights
Yeah.
Thor in that. Yeah.
So here's the answer to the mystery. It's a circus strongman named Boris, who is in the Superman outfit. And when people think that he bended metal, he was actually given a magnetic gadget that allowed him to do that. And when people thought he flew, he just actually jumped up onto, he did like a Batman thing, where he jumped up onto like an invisible wire that was being hung from a dirigible that was flying around. So everyone thought that they saw him flying, but actually he was just hanging on to something. And so...
Those damn dirigibles were
yeah,
everywhere
exactly.
back
It's the
then,
40s.
huh?
Also, it seems like circuses were just so extremely influential to everybody at this time. Like, I guess if there's not much of TV at all, and
That
you
used
only
to
have
be
radio.
Facebook.
Yeah, it was like if you went to your circus, that was like a fucking event. I guess I could imagine.
That's how politics started.
yeah,
Yes,
politics
yes,
started at the
three-ring
circus.
Let's see. So 19. Okay, so this will be the last Batman Superman one because this is big for history. The Dead Voice was a major story because it was the first time they adapted Robin's origin. Well, it's the
On a Superman radio show?
I didn't know this myself until I was looking into this, and then just randomly I'm just like, the man who killed Dick Grayson's parents. I'm like, what? They adapted this?
Wow.
So there's no Boss Zuko. I guess they didn't have the rights of any Batman villains. They couldn't even do fucking Boss Zuko. Instead,
Either they didn't have the rights, or they didn't give a fuck to look any further.
well, there's
Salvatore
there's
Roroni.
different, because they do keep the name right for Dick Grayson's dad from Detective Comics number 38. Unless they just have, I mean, John
Alright.
Grayson's probably not that hard of a name to come up with, but still. So here's this version, is that it was John and Yvonne Grayson, and they have a very different backstory than they do in the comic. So John Grayson was a rich guy who had an English father back in England, and decided he wanted to join the circus because he fell in love with Yvonne, and he got disowned by Mr. Grayson. Yvonne was a French immigrant whose family was in the French resistance, and
So Robin's half French, half
English.
British. English,
Even though he
yeah.
talks like a
Okay.
city kid, like a Jersey kid in the radio show.
He grew up there, so that checks out.
That's
And
why you
it's-
could see him and
didn't you
Alfred
say
in the back.
Yeah.
Fist bumping.
Didn't you say Batman is Scottish?
The Wayne
the
name
Waynes
comes from a Scottish family. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
But a blackmailer, basically the ringmaster of the circus, decides to blackmail them. So instead of Tony Zuko, it's the ringmaster of the fucking circus who's the villain here. Blackmails them, threatens to expose the family member's identity to the Nazis if they don't pay him. So instead, they refused, and that's why he cut the ropes. And that's why they fell to their death. So they actually keep the circus death adaptation from Detective Comics number 38. But they add in the political flavor of the whole like French immigrant thing, the French resistance type of thing. So it all sort of culminates into this big confrontation with one of the other villains named Marsh, who is the secretary to Grandpa Grayson. Grandpa Grayson, the one who disowned John Grayson, wants to leave his fortune for Dick. But his secretary is like, well, if I kill Dick Grayson, then all the money gets to me. So he's on the hunt to kill Dick Grayson in this entire story. Again, doesn't seem like much of a Superman story. It seems very much a Robin story, but this is wild. Also features the first adaptation of the Batboat. The Batboat is mentioned in this as well.
I was waiting for that one.
Manned by both Batman and Alfred until Batman gets on and helps Robin out. Alfred tries to use the Batboat to go back to warn Clark Kent and tell him what's going on, but Alfred gets shot in the Batboat.
Alfred at this time, Alfred doesn't have a British accent.
Yeah, he does. He always had a British accent. Yeah, he
he
had a
does.
British accent from the
Oh, he
beginning.
always- okay.
He just didn't have the
Okay, copy.
SAS, hello, Master Bruce, type of thing.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
he was just kind of helpless and was shot, but he only got shot in the shoulder. Don't worry. So Superman helped take him to a doctor before finding out where Batman and Robin were inevitably trapped and in need of rescuing as well in that storyline. But yeah, it all ended with Grandpa Grayson survives. I don't know why Dick Grayson needs his money, considering he lives with Bruce Wayne, but whatever. But that was the very first produced, I should say, adaptation of Robin's origin. The first attempt at Robin's origin was in the first attempt at doing a Batman radio series. But again, I'll save that for the Patreon.
Oh
So
shit.
that leads us into the final chapter that I want to go into of the Superman radio show, where shit gets real in 1946. where they decide to use the radio show as a platform to fight against racial and religious intolerance. Multiple times, not just once, but in different storylines. So the first one is called the Hate Mongers Organization. This may or may not... At this time, they started using the Sammy Tinberg theme song from the Fleischer animated films as the theme song for the radio show. And basically, it's a neo-Nazi group, before the term neo-Nazi even existed, I think, called the Guardians of America. And they're out to pit races up against each other. So when they find out that a rabbi, a Catholic priest, and everybody are trying to create something called Unity House to teach tolerance, the Guardians of America decide to attack that. And they start employing youths, very white Anglo youths, to attack these areas and these people under the influence of a masked man who is behind the Guardians and everything. So Clark realizes that if you arrest these youths that he's employed for the Guardians of America, you won't get to the main leader. The main leader will just find other people. So we need somebody who gets into the organization. We need somebody who's an undercover agent. That's where Jimmy Olsen comes in. So as I said, Jimmy Olsen ain't like some... I mean, he is held hostage at one point, but he ain't just some helpless damsel in distress. Jimmy Olsen bravely goes undercover with the neo-Nazis to help take down the head of the organization in this episode.
Damn.
He's kind of...
So he's not a little bitch like he became.
No,
is he redheaded?
He's still
in this?
redheaded, but I guess they don't count that against him because he's still white.
That's true. So they're not going full Aryan with
Not
this
quite,
shit. Right.
no. There's a man, he gets exposed thanks to a man he shouldn't have trusted named Adolf Klein, because who knew that a man named Adolf would turn out to be working with neo-Nazis?
This is post-World War II,
This is
isn't it?
1946, but yeah, this is after Hitler shot. Hitler basically, was in the bunker and killed himself.
Okay. I got you. They definitely just want to make those, especially for the kids, they want to make it extremely understandable.
Yeah, but this is like Jimmy Olsen's finest hour, because I've never seen this type of Jimmy Olsen. I realize his purpose, at least in the radio show, was to show kids who you could be. Like, kids might be inspired by Superman, but you could never be Superman. But you could be Jimmy Olsen. And Jimmy Olsen...
He was like the Robin.
He was like the Robin, but he didn't need a costume.
Love it.
He didn't need the money from Billionaire.
Yeah,
He didn't need the superpowers. He was just a kid who believed in doing what was right and didn't care if it cost him his own life, even. So I'm like, you could do that with this character.
Sounds like a great Amazon original series.
Like, you could make him the guy who's inspired by Superman. If Superman's supposed to inspire hope, you need characters who are inspired to do the right thing, to stand up for what's right.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think we're missing that in the movies a lot of the time. It's supposed to inspire hope. Let's show who the fuck he's inspiring.
Exactly.
What's their fucking arc?
Jim Olsen in the
what I
radio
mean?
series, Jim Olsen grows up, and he grows up to become even braver and braver and gutsier, and he is an example of who Superman can inspire. So I was like, that's amazing. You can either do that in the movies, or you can make him a random CIA agent who gets shot in the head in Batman vs. Superman. Either way, like, that's your take on Jimmy Olsen.
They both work, don't they? The exact same way.
So
We need a DC series of Jimmy Olsen.
You're really
to the tune of Jack Ryan or something.
You're really selling this Jimmy Olsen
Yeah.
idea. I've never been a Jimmy Olsen fan until
you gotta
now.
listen to this version of Jimmy Olsen.
This is
Yeah.
cool. This is cool.
Get some ginger representation up in there.
All right, so I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to
We
play
need
a
it.
clip for you from the Hate Mongers organization.
It's that clip from Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
They's miscegenating.
Who made the color guard colored?
I am part of a secret organization. I need not say its name.
So, by the way, this is Bud Collier's Superman, and you'll get to appreciate why I think Bud Collier is the Kevin Conroy of Superman. He is like the voice of Superman to me, especially with these types of lines that they give him, where he basically goes up against the head of this neo-Nazi organization.
We don't like people who push other people around. We don't like people who spread hatred and suspicion.
I was only trying to protect America from foreigners.
Go on. You know America was founded by what you call foreigners.
Right, Jim. Tell me, Hill, was it because you were trying to protect America that you told Muggs and his gang to set fire to Dave Hoffman's drugstore?
Hoffman's a Jew. The Jews are trying to run the world.
Hoffman's an American, regardless of his religious preference. Besides, as I recall, it was one of Herr Hitler's favorite lines.
So he just gets right to the fucking point. I want this
Damn,
Superman.
Badass. We just needed a punch sound effect right.
Oh, there is a part later.
they-
Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
This is kind of part of like the how they save Superman's image if they don't change him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's also the route of changing his race as well. I'm not saying don't do that, of course,
Yeah.
but I'm saying if they did continue with him being a white guy in the movies and stuff, you know him, but then it falls into like white savior shit too.
You'll
mean?
see there's a way to do it that'll bring
Yeah.
it when we get to it. I've got something on that.
Yeah, okay.
But it is there's a part later on. Yeah, you do get to see him basically beat the shit out of neo-Nazis.
That's
and at one
cool.
point, the guy who's the head of it, at one point he tries to run, and Superman catches up to him, and you hear this punching sound, and Jim Olsen says like, "You got him," and Superman's like, "Unfortunately, he'll live." I'm like, Jesus,
Damn.
this Superman fucks.
Yeah,
This
that's-
is not Christopher Reeve
That,
at all.
that is cool, man. That's
Yeah.
that's definitely like I think most people are down for that kind of shit.
And apparently, this storyline according to Superman homepage, attracted endorsements from dozens of organizations, but also naturally generated hate mail. But
Fuck them, dude.
given the importance of this, Bud Collyer stepped into the media spotlight and said that he was the
Damn.
voice of Superman. After years of being in obscurity, he decided this was the time.
That's cool.
To step out.
Like
and
Tony Stark and Iron Man. Well, I'm Superman.
I am Superman, yes. So that was the
is
Unity
cool,
House
though. He
storyline.
chose that. Like I said, he was like the Mr. Rogers kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was the leeway into the next one, which is probably one of the most important instances of superhero history of fiction helping real life. There was a reporter, almost like a real-life Clark Kent, named Stetson Kennedy, who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan in 1946. And he found out a lot of their secrets, and he decided that he needed to find some way to expose them. And what was the most popular radio show at the time? The Adventures
Annie.
of Superman.
Oh.
So he worked with the producers of The Adventures of Superman, and I'm going to read off a little bit in terms of, like, there's a bit of a dispute in terms of how it came about. It says, no one is sure who first came up with the idea. Stetson Kennedy, an intrepid anti-Klan reporter, said he had brought the idea to the radio show's staff. Kenyon and Eckhart, an advertising agency that worked with the show, said the idea was actually theirs. Bob Maxwell, again, the head of this whole thing, claimed he had to convince Kenyon and Eckhart to get on board. He certainly had a reason for wanting his company's premier superhero to take on the Klan. As a Jewish American, Maxwell recoiled in horror when he read aloud what white supremacists had done to Jewish people in Europe. He felt a duty to fight bigotry however he could. So they came up with a storyline that's lasted for like a month called The Clan of the Fiery Cross.
Damn.
And that's where they had Superman fight the Ku Klux Klan.
Wow. Let's do it.
So on a
2022.
on a personal note, so this is 1946, and I was surprised listening to this because the leeway in is that as part of the Unity House baseball team, there is a dispute between a white boy and a Chinese American boy.
Oh shit.
And during that dispute, the white boy, who is basically kicked off the team because he doesn't like that the Chinese boy is a more skilled player than him, and he starts throwing, roundabout epithets. He calls him, he yells, "Pitch, you yellow banana."
Oh
And,
my god. All right, hey, that's not a roundabout there, there, Ben. That's
I'm
pretty
saying
much...
roundabout compared to what they say later.
Oh, okay. All right.
Macaroni is
Sounds like a direct hit, but I'm sure it's a
N-word.
heavy hitter.
So, Tommy Lee is the name of the boy.
He's got a
And-
huge dick.
He's got a huge Asian dick. And he's this talented player.
That's
And
Motley
there's
Crue
nothing
reference,
wrong.
by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
This is before that Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
But he's an Asian. He's a Chinese American guy, and this is premiered a year after. On a personal note, a year after my father was born.
Oh shit.
This is the year that my father This is the America that my father was born into, and I can't help but wonder how much like this might have helped things not be so bad, for him on that type of stuff. So this kid doesn't like the fact that he lost his position to Tommy Lee, and he tells his uncle, and his uncle is like, oh, this fits into my plans, come to this one meeting. So this uncle is, quote unquote, the Grand Scorpion of the Clan of the Fiery Cross. And he says, quote, we're a great secret society pledged to purify America. America for 100% Americans only. One race, one religion, one color. And the kid's like, but I thought America's got all kinds of religions and colors. And he says, when we get through, there'll only be one. And so he asked this white kid, about Tommy Lee. He's like, is he like us Americans? Can his family ever be Americans? Are they good 100% Americans? And when the boy says, well, no, he doesn't look like us, they go to the lawn of his house and they put a cross and set it on fire to threaten him. And they kidnap the boy with an attempt to tar and feather him. And they rile each other up and talk about, quote unquote, going after these chinks and going after the chink lovers on here. And the boy who lost his position on the baseball team feels really guilty and doesn't really know, like, that's his uncle who's in charge of the Grand Scorpion, but decides that he has to be coerced by Clark to figure out what to do and how to do the right thing. And ironically enough, one of the youths who, I guess, changes sides from the Hate Mongers organization, the guy who used to be one of the villains of that episode, actually helps out on the good side. His name is Muggs. He was like one of the main villains of the Hate Mongers organization.
Yeah, my name is Muggs. I'm here to help.
He joins, he joined Jimmy Olsen in the Unity House, and he actually helps Clark's investigation.
I'm here to join Jimmy in his operation.
Yeah. And it says, even more damning was the show's climax, where the guy who's the Grand Scorpion tries to seek help from like one of the head honchos, and the head honcho is like, you actually really give a shit about this whole like race thing? And the guy's like, yeah, I do. Why wouldn't I? And he's just like, this is about money, dude. We don't believe in any of this type of stuff. This is just for you to get rich. He says, quote unquote, you must be like the little nobodies who want to believe some other race is inferior so they can feel superior. The jerks who go for that 100% American rot. So the Grand Scorpion dude is pissed off that the head of the Clan of the Fiery Cross is not really believing in the Clan of the Fiery Cross, so he chokes him to death. Wow. And
damn, so it does get pretty brutal at times.
Shakespearean up in this.
And then he tries to use a sniper rifle to kill Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, and Tommy Lee on the baseball field.
Jesus.
But guess who's faster than the speeding bullet? So, yeah. So Superman steps in and helps out. There's another part where they try to tar and feather. They try to tar and feather Perry White and Jimmy Olsen, but then Perry White defends, saying like, you'll never win, type of thing. This is not what America stands for. Your people will lose. And he grabs the guy's hood and he pulls it off, and he actually sees the guy's face. And the guy's like, well, we were going to tar and feather you, but now we're just going to have to kill you.
Damn.
So Superman has to come in and rescue them.
They have to have outfits like the Clan of the Fiery Cross.
Every country has its lame brains and diseased minds, Jim. Germany had the Nazis. We've got the Clan of the Fiery Cross. No, I just hope our country realizes the danger of these lunatics in nightshirts before it's too late.
Well, still making one of your big speeches, eh, White? Well, save your breath. You've only got a short time left.
Why,
You're a madman, Riggs. You'll go to the chair for this.
Don't make me laugh. I warned you couldn't stop the work of the Klan. Nobody can.
That's what you think.
I said nobody can stop us. We're going to get rid of every foreigner in this country. Everyone who thinks, acts, and looks different from us. Anybody who tries to stop us will get the same thing you're getting. Okay, boys, that's it.
No, the man's mad. Absolutely mad.
And we're through, Chief. This is it.
Harry. Emmett. As Grand Defender of the Clan of the Fiery Cross, you will now perform your sacred duty. Here's a gun. Take care of those two chink lovers.
Okay.
Here it comes, Mr. White.
Easy, Jim, easy.
All right, you dirty punks. Here's where you get yours.
You mean here's where you get yours? I'll take that gun, and you take this.
Superman, Chief, it's Superman.
Thank heaven.
Hello, Jim. I'll just get these ropes off you and Mr.
Oh,
White.
thank heaven you've arrived just in time.
How?
That's it. Get out of here.
Hey, look, the Klansmen are getting away. Go after them,
Yes,
Superman.
yes, these ropes can wait. Don't let them get away.
Don't you worry, they won't get far. There, you're free. All right, now get behind those trees in case there's any more shooting. I'll round up our friends in the sheets. Away!
Superman beating the shit out of the KKK.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's delivered so I don't know how to say it. Like it's delivered. The lines are delivered seriously. I don't know. I'm missing the word. But
it's very like realism is the only word that comes to mind.
Right.
It comes across as real. Like they're not trying to make a perfect Superman thing or whatever. Like we're so caught up in. I'm just on this. I'm on this now for some reason. We're so caught up in canon and getting it right. But what they were trying to do in this instance in history is try to tell a good story, and one that's extremely pertinent to what's going on at that time, and actually right the fuck now too, really, which is sad. But I mean that I think like there's a lesson in that too, as far as it's more important to just, I mean, of course, tell a good story, but to really tackle those times right now. Something extremely important going on.
Yeah, and this is where Superman goes from being just a random superhero in comics for you to read and actually starts influencing real life. Because they used this story to start leaking out certain secret practices. The whole Grand Scorpion thing is obviously based off the Grand Wizard thing. Passwords, practices, secret handshakes, the costumes and all that. They used it to expose everything. And when this was released, the KKK took a huge hit in membership. There's a story
Superman
that came about.
Wins, baby.
One of the KKK members comes home from work and he sees his son. And his son has found his clan hood and he's using it to quote unquote play Superman with the neighbor kid. And the neighbor kid's playing Superman and he's playing the Klansman. And of course, because it's them playing Superman, the Klansman always gets his ass beat when they're playing it or whatever. And he looks at this and he's like, how can I continue in this clan if my own kid thinks I'm the villain of the story?
Yeah, boy.
That's cool.
So he drops out of the KKK.
That's where you figure it out.
I know I always bring up Grant Morrison, but I'm a huge fan, and he said that, like, there's stories like this, and there's stories like how many depressed people read a Superman story, in the 75, 80 years he's been around, and didn't commit suicide. Something like that. You know what I mean? Like, in some sense, Superman is, and of course other heroes as well, but Superman is saving lives.
Yeah.
It's the power of fiction, the power of storytelling, but there's something really interesting about that,
Yeah, totally.
So I'm
on that level.
This is arguably the greatest. This is arguably one of the greatest radio storylines of the entire series on air. And it's just thrilling even to listen to today, because some of the radio stuff is just like, oh, it feels dated, but this stuff I'm just like, holy shit, I can't believe they did this at that time. The behind the scenes story was turned into a book called Superman versus the KKK. It was adapted into an episode of Drunk History, but producer Adi Shankar...
I've never seen that, but I would definitely see that. Oh, Shankar did this shit?
Shankar announced that he wanted to make a movie out of the whole Stetson Kennedy turning to the producers of Superman thing in 2018, adapting
I
the book,
think that's the same
Superman
guy
versus
that made
KKK.
that. It's the same guy that made that R-rated Power Rangers thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
and Castlevania American anime series. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I decided to visit. There's a comic book adaptation of this story called Superman Smashes the Klan. It's by Jean Luen Yang, art by Guri Hiro. So we got Asian artists behind this type of thing. They set it in 1946, and at first I thought like, oh, maybe he just turned the radio show into a comic. What he did was he combined the storyline of the Clan of the Fiery Cross with sort of modern aspects of the Superman story, and gave Superman more of a personal note to it, which is that in this version, Superman is still the original Golden Age one. He only leaps, has super strength and that type of stuff. And it's revealed the reason why he doesn't fly or have X-ray vision and stuff is because he doesn't completely embrace the fact that he's an alien. He doesn't want to think that he's an alien because he wants to fit in.
Oh, so he doesn't want to do he doesn't want the very alien powers like laser vision and shit, heat vision.
Yeah,
but he
just wants to be Superman. He just wants to be a regular man. Just
that's interesting.
More.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And there's a part where he takes on the Grand Scorpion. The Grand Scorpion's like, I thought you of all people would be part of us because you're the example of the superiority of the white man.
That's not okay. I love that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And so Superman realizes once he hears that, he speeds over to the Kents, and he says, "I want to promise you that no matter what happens, what's about to happen, I'll always love you, and I'm always going to be here for you, and everything's going to be okay." And he hugs them. And the next time he shows up is to stop the Grand Scorpion from killing at the baseball stadium. And when he shows up, he's flying.
Oh, shit.
And he says, I'm not from here. I'm an alien. I'm from Krypton. I am not your superior man. I am
just got the
like
chills.
them. And I'm here to defend everybody, not because there's anybody like me out in the world, but because we're all part of the same world itself. It doesn't matter if they're my kind or anything like that, because there's no one else from my kind. That's what you don't get.
Right.
And I was just floored. I think this is probably my favorite Superman comic ever, just from reading it the other day.
It's ongoing, right? It's
so
still
much
going, right?
No. It's a closed-ended thing. It's its own Elseworlds thing. It's set in 1946.
Oh yeah. Superman versus the Klan is the name.
Superman smashes the Klan.
Smashes the Klan.
Yeah.
And
Superman
it's like,
versus the
3
KKK
issues or something, or
3 or 4 issues. Yeah, but it's a fantastic update.
God damn it!
The radio.
I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, it is. I'm like, this is why I know we were talking about, like, I get bored watching Superman smash another alien in the face. But the reason why is I was listening to this shit for most of the week. Like, just watching him fight Lobo is like, meh.
Oh man,
I just saw him take on the KKK.
I know, I get you. I like Lobo though too. That's a whole other conversation.
I just wasn't in the mood for that after reading this comic, and I was like, "This is fucking." Like, I almost teared up just saying what I was sharing to you guys. I was like, "This is amazing."
No, it is
I would
really
love
good
for the people behind that. Yeah, so this, I want to see that done in an animated film. I want to see that comic done in an animated film, maybe with Daniel Day Kim as Superman.
That would be cool because it is also Asian writers for this, right? Asian American. Yeah, so that would really work out.
And I would love to see somebody do the Fleischer style of some of these stories, especially the Batman ones, and have an animated Fleischer Batman, but he's kind of an idiot. So, is there another Superman or the Dead Voice, the one with the Robin thing? But yeah,
Voice, I love
so just to wrap this up, Bud Collyer was in 325 syndicated episodes. He was in 1,610 15-minute shows and 73 half-hour episodes. And he left the role in 1950, and for 1 year, it was an actor named Michael Fitzmaurice in the role for it. And then almost immediately after it stopped in 1951, Bob Maxwell took the show to television, and that's where he incorporated the characters he helped create with Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, Inspector Henderson, and that was the George Reeves show.
Did they see at this time? Did they see as kind of a reboot, or was it like we're sort of how the radio show?
It was
Fleischer
a reboot. It was like it was kind of a reboot where like they still retold the Krypton story. They still had the Kents and everything. Like, I haven't checked it out, but I know that George Reeves is almost like when people say like, oh, I miss the George Reeves Clark Kent or something. They're talking about this type of Clark Kent. They're talking about this Clark Kent who could actually, like, you could forget that he was Superman and he would still be a compelling, active character, on that. So, but that is the deep dive into the Superman radio show and why I prefer the radio show over the Fleischer cartoons.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, those sound so great.
What are your thoughts then on what you heard? Any tidbits that you were found interesting?
You take it, Wolfie.
Yeah, those are great. I love how, in those last episodes, how just on the nose they were with their criticisms and commentary against racism, even at a time that seems like now everything's so crazy about racism and stuff, but at a time where these kind of issues are really coming to light for the American public, who maybe 20 or 30 years later in some parts of the country, they were praising the KKK, after Birth of the Nation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I found that to be really compelling, but then also what you're talking about, Bud Collyer, and hearing his voice and stuff, not having heard any of these episodes, and how powerful that is, and how raw these episodes seem to be. Not to mention the mythology that they were building through this radio show prior to all this stuff we've known about Superman. it's really cool. It's like, it's a whole other dimension to Superman that I had. Like, I'm in. I like the Superman shit now.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't, but that was great.
Yeah, I think this stuff goes to show you that the more you dive into Superman, the mythology therein, it just gets more and more interesting. I mean, the clan story you told was incredible. Even though it's like mostly spoiled for me now, I'm gonna.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's good. I don't mind it actually. I still want to read it. That's how good it is.
Yes. It's worth hearing the radio one too.
Yeah, and
it's on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and like we said before, like, the line delivery being pretty serious for what it is. Like the Fleischer cartoon, I don't know. They were just trying to have like a little cartoon action spectacle,
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite get that urgency that like what we heard. I mean, it does sound like adults yelling at each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is really it's what it is. So which is kind of nice in a way.
It's not big, like colorful dialogue and like bombastic characters.
Yeah.
It's almost like it has to be real because of how they need to convey and like relate to their audience emotionally or whatever.
What's sad?
It's so interesting.
It's just sad to me now. Like we're sort of back at this similar. I mean, I don't know what the fucking clan registration numbers are like these days, but it just doesn't seem great again. It's like, why does this shit ramp up every now and again?
Well, now they're Proud Boys and Boogaloos.
Yeah, what's going on, man? It's sad.
Superman.
We need Superman, or
we need Asian Superman
to be inspired by people to be inspired by Superman or something,
Yeah.
I was thinking, this is sort of a side thing, but I'll finish soon. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that whole movie, the way it's written is, it's less about Ferris Bueller's arc, and it's more about everybody caught in his hurricane. And he causes arcs all around him. That movie is written that way, and I feel like, maybe they could take that. I'm always thinking of a way they could make a Superman movie,
That's cool.
or a
That's
Batman movie. Because Superman, like we said before, like he doesn't have a whole lot of internal struggle. He just fucking saves people,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like if there was a movie that they could write where people were caught in his hurricane of goodness. You know what I mean? And people that were inspired, people that need forgiveness, but they don't seek Superman for forgiveness. They find it in themselves because they've seen something. They've been inspired enough to find it in themselves. There's something in that, I think.
Yeah. No, and it's like at the end of one of the big plot points of Hate Mongers' organization is how he turns all of the youths who were part of the neo-Nazis, and he turns them against the main guy.
That's cool.
And he finds a way to get through to them, and that's why one of them ends up helping during the Clan of the Fiery Cross storyline. I actually listened to them in reverse order, so I was like, "There's no way this kid becomes that." In the other, like, they must have used the same name, and then later on, at the end, they established no, this kid ended up being part of Jimmy Olsen's Unity House and helping out. And I'm like, all right, I guess he has a character arc. Again, 1946 radio series. There's character development and stuff.
Yeah,
This is why I love the radio show, and this is why I was like, this is the part of Superman people don't talk about because people don't listen to old radio shows.
It's common not just for Superman, especially for Superman in a lot of incarnations, but it's common for the main character to be the most watered down person in the whole story because you need an avatar that everybody can see themselves into, and that means like you can't see yourself in that character for some reason. But the thing is, though, maybe that's wrong because, and maybe the publishers and the movie studios are thinking about it the wrong way, because look at how popular Deadpool is. I know Wolfie hates his sense of humor, but he is a ridiculously popular character, and he's often the most exciting person on screen or on the page. You know what I mean? Full of character. So, yeah, they need to maybe rethink this watering down of especially Clark's personality.
The everyman kind of drabness.
Yeah.
Much. Because even that early stuff when it's talking about like some of the more detective work kind of stuff, I mean, maybe we could see more of that peppered into some of these later movies and and a tougher Jimmy Olsen and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, tougher Jimmy
That
Olsen would be
sounds
cool.
great. There's so much meat, and I mean, it even seems like Lois. She had a little spunk to her.
She does in the Fleischer ones a
She
little
usually
bit.
does, yeah.
Because the chief says, "Don't go there, Lois. It's dangerous," and she's basically like, "See ya, chief," and she heads off
exactly.
without the fucking chief.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Yeah.
Yeah. So even in Fleischer, she's got a lot of agency, which is pretty cool and pretty progressive for that time for sure.
And thank you for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at Superhero Stuff Pod, as well as on Twitter on Superhouse Pod. You can also follow me, if you want, on Instagram at Ben1Writer. Over to Wolfie.
Hey, this is Wolfie. You can follow me on Instagram at Wolfie Cruz or Cruzco Comics at Cruzco Comics, Comix. I mean, CRUZZCOCOMIX.
Do you know your handle, bro?
Listen to our other. I mean, I feel like I had to spell it out because it's a bunch of bullshit.
Cocoa Mix.
I aim for the bullshit. But also check out our other podcast, the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club podcast, as well as come join the Facebook group, the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club. And I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting, but get you next time.
And I'd like to thank Cardi B, also Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Aaron Willett, Ian H, Dan D, Leom O, and Super Infra Man. Please join the Shasta Army at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. We have a $5 tier on there, and if you join that, you get the bonus feed. It's extra episodes every week. We do the deeper dives on there and whatnot. And please leave us a review on iTunes. Also, please record us a phone bumper like you've been hearing recently from the fans. And if you do that, share that little audio recording on your voice recorder app to superhousepodcast@gmail.com. And you too can be on the show. And I am Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. Check us out on YouTube if you haven't already. And that's it from me, signing off.
This is Wolfie signing off.
And this has been, before I sign off, instead of the usual outro with a theme song, I thought I would leave you with the words of Bud Collyer at the end of the Hate Mongers organization. This is the speech that he makes towards the neo-Nazi characters. However, I think it's very relevant, and it seems like he was speaking to the audience of 1946 as well as the audience of currently 2020. So here it is.
But remember this as long as you live. Whenever you meet up with anyone who is trying to cause trouble between people, anyone who tries to tell you that a man can't be a good American because he's a Catholic or a Jew, a Protestant or whatever, you can be pretty sure he's a rotten American himself. Not only a rotten American, but a rotten human being. Don't ever forget that.